Meeting called to order. Today is Tuesday, August 7th, 2018. It is now 7 p.m. Town Council meeting in Town Council Chambers, 1170 Main Street, West Warwick, Rhode Island. John, will you lead us in prayer?
Please rise.
You know, Dave, before we start, we got some bad news today. Longtime resident, our zoning board chairman passed away this morning, Bob Messier. I'd like to take a moment of silence. Thank you.
Heavenly Father, we've gathered here this evening as one community. We ask that this meeting is blessed with your divine spirit and your presence. May all of our efforts and all of our actions only better the great town of West Warwick. Help us all to be patient with one another, considerate of different opinions, and remind us all to participate appropriately with both integrity and decorum. Amen.
Angel, consider pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilman Licciardi, Councilman Messier,
Here.
Councilman Padula,
here.
Council Vice President D'Amico,
Here.
Council President Goslin.
Here.
There is a quorum. Town Council President's address to the audience.
First of all,
We told you in January to give you a heads up if there's going to be a violation prior to it
if
happening.
you want to come to the microphone, please.
Anna Spodnik, Carpenter Court. I am executing my right to an objection to the West Warwick Town Council and notifying them of a deficiency in regards to the procedure of entering into and exiting from an executive session. As per the request of the council president back in January, you requested that I let you know before a violation takes place. I am now informing you of this. Should the town council decide to continue this negligence after my statement informing them of this, it will be considered willful and knowing, as recognized by the state of Rhode Island Attorney General Kilmartin. My reference is to basically all of the executive sessions that I could review today that have been recorded. When you have an executive session, Chapter 42-46-6 and the Open Meetings Act both require that you have an open call and a vote prior to going into executive session. I have reviewed the videos prior to these sessions beginning. None have had any open call session, and I've been advised by the powers to be that this is not something that is supposed to continue happening. You are also supposed to close the open session as soon as you get into the next public meeting, which would be now.
Which we're going to be doing in a second,
Okay.
after my address.
It has never been done before in the ones that I've seen.
Councilman Licciardi has always opened and closed the meetings. Councilman Licciardi has always read from a script that's in his drawer, and it basically says, under the section of 42-46-4 and 42-46-5 of Rhode Island General Laws, the town council will convene into executive session. We take that vote, we go into executive session, we then take another roll call in executive session. Then when we come out of executive session and we go into our next meeting,
May I ask where the open call is done?
open call,
Yes.
right here in the council chambers. The
And-
doors are
Then
open,
we
we
shut
do
the
not
doors.
shut the doors until the doors.
Why are they not on any of the videos? The open call has to be on video.
I'm not sure why it's not on video.
There isn't one on video.
And then when we come into our next meeting, under section 42-46-4, under 42-46-5 on the Rhode Island General Laws, the town council will close the minutes of the meeting, or we can keep them open if we want to.
You're generally supposed to close, you're supposed to close them as soon as you get into the next public meeting, at the beginning of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Which we'll be doing shortly. All right, good evening. On July 17th, our town council meeting became very contentious at the end of the meeting during public comment. Our solicitor made comments to infuriate a local business person who is in litigation with the town, and the solicitor should not engage in that level. This also infuriated the crowd, and vulgar language was used, name-calling and loud outbursts, as this should not have happened. I should have taken better control over that meeting, and I apologize to the members of the town council and the members of the audience that I let this go on too far. This will never happen again. With that being said, Mr. Solicitor, you are here to advise the council. Please do not address the audience unless approved by the council. Please do not speak on a matter unless you are called upon from the council. If we need an opinion, we'll ask you for one. If an individual from the audience comes to the mic with a legal matter, I or the council will authorize or request that you answer that individual. You can intervene if a matter is a legal issue and the council may be speaking out of line. Members of the audience, if you are in litigation with the town and represented by an attorney, these chambers are not where matters should be addressed. Please have your attorney forward any documents to the town clerk for distribution to the town council, and if you want to share any information, you can share that on letterhead. You can also put comments in so the council can see. The town council has never micromanaged any legal case. We are not attorneys. None of us specialize in law. The town council can get updates on any legal matter by putting it on the agenda in executive session to discuss these matters, as it's always been done in the past. Members of the audience, these council meetings are meant for town business and the council to work on improving our town. This is not a place to campaign. When you enter the front doors of Town Hall, your personal agendas, your personal dislikes of anyone should be left outside these chambers. If you are speaking from the audience, unless approved, because some people do have disabilities or cannot get up to the microphone, yelling from the audience, using profanity, you will be asked to leave. We should be doing this all together. We should be improving our town together. So let's work together in a civilized fashion. Thank you, and let's move on to tonight's agenda.
Ordinance number 2018-27, first reading, amending the zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick, Plat 10, Lot 201, change from Business B to Residential R8.
I'll move the ordinance for discussion.
I'll second.
Move second, discussion.
Mr. President, members of the council, John Bernero Jr. I'm an attorney with law offices at 1070 Main Street, and I am here tonight to rehash this council to rechange the property from business back to residential. I stood here 29 years ago, August 1st, 1989. I don't think some of you were born yet. And asked the council to change the zone from residential to business. Obviously, that was a mistake. It was a good move for approximately 15, 16 years. We had 2 single-family homes. My client built a commercial unit in the middle. There were hairdressers there for years. It worked out very well for everyone. But then with the advent of these changes that are coming into town, quick cuts, this cut, that cut, we cannot rent it out. We went before your planning commission. Your planning commission unanimously recommended that the town council consider this change back to residential. They found that it is in keeping with the comprehensive plan, and it's in no violation or spirit of intent of the comprehensive community plan.
Any questions for John? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That is the first reading. Before we move on, can you close the minutes, please?
Under section 42-46-4 and 42-46-5, subsection A, 1, and 2 of Rhode Island General Laws, the town council will close the minutes of the executive session.
I'll second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointment for Assistant Municipal Court Judge. Resolved that the Town Council hereby acknowledges the appointment of John S. Bernero Jr. as an Assistant Municipal Court Judge for the Town of West Warwick.
I'll move the resolution.
I'll second.
Moving second, discussion.
Did he have his resume?
So previous to John retiring, he had his backup, which was his legal counsel from his office.
That's correct.
And Judge Landros needs a backup, so he recommended John Bernero. He did it for 30 years prior, so I think he's qualified to handle when Mr. Landros is not here.
I'm not looking to do any work, but if Norman is sick, I was very lucky, knock on wood, to serve for 19 and a half years, and I was ill one night that I couldn't make it. Hopefully Norman doesn't call on me, but if I need to come in, it is a gratuitous appearance. I am not getting paid. I don't expect, nor do I want to get paid. So if you do appoint me, that's my stipulation, no pay.
Thank you.
Do you want public comment?
We'll be talking all night, Al.
Any other comment from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
You had me at no pay.
Minutes of the previous meeting. Resolved that the minutes of the July 17th, 2018 executive session and July 17th, 2018 town council meeting are hereby accepted.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agendas. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
License applica, where am I?
License.
License applications, I'm sorry. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed or awaiting recommendations, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? Any public discussion on licenses? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Consent agenda correspondence. Resolved that the consent agenda having been posted, all matters being referred to proper departments and being disposed of or awaiting recommendation, the same is hereby approved.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Amplifier loudspeaker. Resolved that the town council hereby approves the following application. The Portuguese Holy Ghost Society, attention Dominic Late, dates August 31st, September 1st, September 2nd, September 3rd, time 7 p.m. to midnight, location 11 Ventura Street.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion? Any public discussion? Just come on up for the, state your name and address for the record.
Janice Pacino, 25 Knight Street in West Warwick. I live probably not even 20 inches from the Holy Ghost. I don't have a problem with the music playing till 12, because I know the ordinance says 11. And I normally come every year and ask that on the Monday night, which is the holiday, that the music would shut down at 11. I don't think it's necessary to have it on till 12 o'clock, because when you do that, you have many people that continue to stay, and, you know, they're taking down the rides, they're moving on, and you hear all that, you know, chatter and the banging of the rides being put away that night. So I would ask that, in consideration for the surrounding homeowners, that it be shut down at 11 o'clock on the Monday night.
Dominic, are you here somewhere? Come on up to the microphone, please. Just state your name and address for the record. We pretty much do this every year, so I think just something came through here. Is there a reason why you're doing midnight on Monday? We usually shut down, you usually have it shut down by 11 on Monday.
Yes. Pretty much shut it down at 11 o'clock, but you know, people always hang around. I like to see my eyes there, but I could train on force them to leave.
Well, I think if you shut the music down at 11, they might leave, head out of there. And I agree, because people are working Tuesday morning, and the neighbors do put up with the noise, and they've been there for years.
Yeah.
From Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Monday, I agree, coming in at 11 o'clock, shutting it down at 11 o'clock is, I think, fairly reasonable for the residents over there.
Because the vendors are closing up, and they're taking down the rides, and you can hear that bang, 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 bang with, you know, with all the rides that they're taking down, because they move in the middle of the night, just as they bring them in the middle of the night. So I'm only asking for the Monday night into Tuesday, because you've got the Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And you know, you don't need anyone hanging around, plus taking down the vendors taking down all their stands. So I would ask that the music be shut off at 11.
The only thing I can do, I can try, like, especially like what the Connor was doing. You know,
Speak into the mic,
you know that I had an issue in the past, last year, especially last year, you know, we had nothing there. And this year, finally, we're gonna have some there. I'm gonna try to see if they can move everything in the morning. But this guy, it's his first time in.
Yeah, the carnival rides aren't the issue. She's more concerned
Right.
about the music playing after 11 p.m.
I can stop the music at 11 o'clock.
All right, so
So
we can,
it won't be an issue.
so could somebody make an amendment to?
I'll make an amendment that they play till midnight,
No.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, they close down at 11,
I
the
second.
music.
I'll be fine.
I second.
That's just the amendment. All in favor for the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
That's just the music.
Music, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now as amended. Any other public comment? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Amplifier loudspeaker, be it resolved, the town council hereby approves the following application. Club Frontenac, attention Scott Norman, date August 26, 2018, time 1 to 8 p.m., location 1143 Main Street.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Resolved that the town council hereby approves the following application. Amplifier loudspeaker and live dance live license, Portuguese American Citizens Club, attention Ray Enos Jr., date August 31st, September 1st, and September 2nd, 2018, time 9 p.m. to midnight, location 97 East Main Street.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion? Any public discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One quick thing, going back to licenses, all licenses were approved, because I got a text message asking if they were approved. They are pending taxes, inspections, police, and fire. So that's all set.
I'd like to make a motion to move letter V, the panhandling resolution, up before M.
I have a motion to move V to M.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We're on letter V.
Just know there was a lot of people here for that, so.
Panhandling resolution sponsored by Council President Goslin.
Yeah, I guess you better.
Let me read it, Dick,
Want to waive the reading?
or you want me to read
No,
it?
you should read it.
Okay. Whereas the town council has determined that there is panhandling, to wit, persons soliciting and/or requesting a donation of money or other thing of value occurring upon the highways and streets of the town of West Warwick, and whereas the town council has received complaints and concerns by the citizens of the town that such solicitation causes a feeling of insecurity and concern, and whereas the town council has determined that the location of panhandlers on the highways and streets of the town have an adverse effect on the traffic flow and safety of pedestrian and vehicular traffic, and whereas the town council is desirous of ensuring that the constitutional speech of all individuals is able to be expressed in a safe and prudent manner, and whereas the town council is aware of agencies and organizations available to provide panhandlers with support and assistance that will assist in relieving the need for panhandling, and whereas the town council believes that this is in the best interest of the town, the residents of the town, and panhandlers, that the public be made aware of such agencies and organizations. Now therefore it is resolved, there will be signs prepared stating, consider giving a local charity, giving to a local charity that helps the homeless, and that such signs shall be placed at locations determined by the traffic committee to be areas where the need for such signs as a result of panhandling is most useful.
I'll move the resolution for discussion.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Let me start off by saying, a little over a year ago, this came before the council on ordinances to prevent panhandling. At that time, Solicitor DeFiore advised the council that that could be an issue. And he came before us, and at that time, the council decided, okay, that we're not going to pursue that. And we didn't want to pursue that. We didn't want to take away anybody's rights. We didn't want to violate anybody's rights. Over the past summer, I visited Fitchburg, Massachusetts, and Leominster, Massachusetts, who have these signs in place. And I thought it was a good idea. I saw the signs. I talked to a town employee who was actually in the park maintaining the lawn. He told me a little bit of history of the sign. I then forwarded the signs to the town council about a month and a half ago, and we put it on the agenda. I asked to put it on the agenda for discussion last council meeting. We discussed it. Nobody from the council seemed to be against it, so we moved forward with it. Not one council member spoke against it. So over the past 2 weeks, it's been kind of interesting. Obviously, the news media has contacted me. WPRO has contacted me. I want to reiterate a few things. I just want to say this is not anti-panhandling. This is not anti-homeless people, individuals. This is about safety, welfare of the town, individuals at the corner, and people in traffic. That's strictly why I brought it forward. Over the past weekend, Kevin McLean, a director of homeless services, Our Father's House, contacted me, and he had told me that he was the creator of the sign, and because he saw the news clip in Massachusetts. He actually is director of homeless services at Our Father's House, Inc., and he worked very closely with the police departments and everything in Leominster, Mass. He went out, he asked panhandlers 10 questions. The sign was part of a possible solution that he came up with, and when he received calls from police officers, he would actually physically go out and meet the individuals and see what their story is, because we know every panhandler has a different story. You know, whether it's addiction, whether it's not getting enough money at their current job, whatever it may be. By doing so, he decreased panhandling in his area by 75%. Now, before proposing this to Northern Central Mass, he went about this in a totally different way. You know, we can't tell people where to donate. We can't, but we can educate the people on where that money's going. And that's what he did. By doing that, he just let people know, hey, sometimes it's not going because they're homeless. It's going because of a habit. And this isn't about, again, I want to say it's strictly about safety.
Can I ask you a question, Dave?
Yes.
So how much of what you said is about the signs, and how much is it about the outreach from that gentleman that went out there and talked to them?
That's what I'm getting to. So these signs originated in businesses. He put these signs, all the local businesses were having problems also with panhandling out front of their businesses. So this sign originated, it went inside the business window and, you know, strictly stuck to, you know, the reasons and where to donate. Later on, the town of Leominster decided that this is a good thing, and they decided to put the signs up themselves. Now, I stated here last council meeting, this isn't a wide epidemic in West Warwick. It's not a major issue in West Warwick. There are a handful to 10 panhandlers in West Warwick, okay? But it's also outside of West Warwick. It's not just West Warwick, it's all of Rhode Island. The Pro-Joe just ran a story a couple months back and how it is becoming outrageous and unsafe. People stopping traffic, people driving up because they're further back in the red light and they want to donate. They stop, they hit their brakes, they put their hand out the window, and the next person's behind them. Whether they hit them, whether they hit somebody or not is a question to be answered. Now, also, I mean, we've had homeless people hit here in West Warwick. We've had convicted felons at the street corners that are standing outside a daycare. A person who was charged with kidnapping. A person who was charged with dumping a body on Pulaski Street. And guess, they were arrested at their home. And they were holding a homeless sign. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. But again, we need to make sure our streets are safe. We don't know who's at the corners. We don't know why they're at the corners. And these organizations that are here in Rhode Island, I don't know exactly everything they do, but maybe we can do something that Mr. McLean does, and we go out and visit these individuals.
I think...
Help them get, wait a minute, let me finish, please.
Sorry.
This is not about giving a hand out, it's about giving a hand up. It's trying to help people, and it's, again, safety for the community, and also you reach out to those individuals and we can get them the help they need. We gotta find those areas that we can do. This is, again, I've had numerous people reach out to me. Obviously, if you can see here, it's been a very touchy subject over the past 2 weeks. It's never an easy subject. We had to deal with the homeless camp on Pulaski Street, and we tiptoed around that last year. And Mr. O'Connell, you were here last year when that was going on, and it was a very touchy subject. Councilman Licciardi got very involved because it's his ward, and he had ways of helping out and getting the people the help they need. A success story there is everybody has a place to live, and some of them are back in the workforce. That's what this is about. It's not about anti-homeless, anti-panhandling. This is about safety. I want to reiterate that once again. The issue of the signs, again, I know people have brought up taxpayers' money. It's about $250 for the signs, okay? I've had local businesses reach out to me and say, we're willing to support or donate the money if needed. So I may not need taxpayers' money to get these signs put up. The other thing that was brought to my attention, and I have reached out to a couple of organizations, I have not received a call back. One was Be the Change. I did reach out to them to say, hey, you know, what do you think? You know, do you want, is this something that you can help with? I haven't gotten a response back. Local churches, I was going to reach out to them. So this is just the beginning stage of these signs. Now, if the council approves this tonight, and we're still not going to order any signs unless council has approved, unless the council approves. Secondly, I want to still continue working on this and working with the local businesses and organizations to see what we can do to help the people. That's it. And I think, and from what I've seen over the past 2 weeks, other cities and towns are starting to look at this. Now also, the one thing that Mr. McLean said, and one of the biggest things out there, was the ACLU has never challenged this in Leominster or Fitchburg, Mass. Never. So that was a big concern of mine too, because I don't want to waste money on legal matters that don't need to exist. So if it's been out there for a couple of years and nobody's challenged it, I don't see why it'd be such a big issue here in West Warwick.
So
Jay, you're next.
yeah, I think your heart's in the right place with this. And I like the idea of putting some of our local organizations on there. But I think, and I'm absolutely not in favor of panhandling whatsoever. I just think that you hit the nail on the head when you talked about that individual. What's his name? Kevin McLean, with the outreach in the community. I think that's the key to all of this, because you're not going to stop panhandling if you ban them from being on the corner. Even if there was a magic and we could change the law, which we can't, ACLU getting involved, and we ban panhandling, you don't stop the underlying issues for most of these individuals, which is mental health issues, addiction issues. So I think, and I know it's only $250, but I think more funds need to be allocated to social services, whether it be mental health or addiction. And I think as a community, West Warwick and Rhode Island as a whole, Be the Change, Help the Homeless, Angel in Action, those 3 organizations have helped this community a lot. And you do see way less panhandlers and less homeless in the area in just the last 2 years since I've been here. And also, this shouldn't be overlooked, is our program with the Providence Center, with our behavioral health navigator, dealing with anybody that's arrested, mental health. If they're arrested for mental health issues or for addiction, they go through that process instead of just sending them back to jail and putting them through the system. So while I think your heart's in the right place, I think that really we need to look as a community at more allocating funds mental health services and addiction.
I would agree with you, but I don't necessarily have a problem with signs. I just think we have to be more thoughtful and more sympathetic in the signs that we actually use. I don't personally like the graphic that was portrayed on Facebook or wherever that came from. I think we have to really think about what we're saying, something to help, help make a real difference, consider giving to a local charity, and then of course some sort of information underneath for the person who might be actually viewing it, who is in need of help, whether it's, giving them information like 211 or whatever it might be. We need to point them in the right direction.
My comment is, I've seen a drastic change with panhandlers in our town. We don't have a problem at all with panhandlers. The biggest part of town where they were panhandling was near on the rocks, Warwick intersection with West Warwick. You had maybe 6 or 7 of them, and one in particular that used to sit there with his dog that got a job, he's got a home, he thanks us every day on emails that we stepped up and helped him. I think these signs are just another deterrent where we're getting ourselves in a pickle that we don't have to be in. We're in a situation that we don't have to be in. We're not like Warwick or Cranston, where every corner you go and every intersection, you have 2 or 3 panhandlers swearing at the passers, the vehicles. It's out of control. I see where they're trying to do something, where they're trying to get these people help and stop anything from happening, because it's only a matter of time before something happens. But for West Warwick to jump in on this, I don't think we have any cards in this game at all. Because, like I said, the spot near on the rocks, I travel that road frequently, and I haven't seen a panhandler there, and I'll say at least 9 months. So where this came from, I don't know. I entertain to hear the pros and cons about signs, and then I thought to myself, why do we even want to put signs? It's like stop signs. They're going to go through them. You don't have the law enforcement to protect them. The people just have to stop. If they don't like it, you stop giving them money and they won't stand there anymore. And I think that's what happened, besides Jason working with the homeless and getting these guys jobs and shelters and whatever they had to do, they did, and they did a terrific job on it. And I don't think that we should even be in this ball game, because we're not affected by it at all right now.
Well, with a
That's my concern.
with a stop sign, there is some legal recourse. The only problem with these signs is, I mean, even if you put them on Vault Hill Road over near the Wendy's and the Chuck E. Cheese, the panhandlers that are going to be swearing and yelling, I don't think the sign would necessarily stop them. And I know that's not your point. Your point is to get the money to services. But I think people that stop and want to give the money are going to give the money anyway. I think they realize there are other services out there. I mean, it's been a while since I've given, but there's been times where you just see a certain individual out there and you feel bad and you give them the money because,
I'll not deny that I haven't stopped and given somebody money, all the time. Especially when you do see somebody in need. I don't mind giving money.
And it is dangerous for them to be out there. I totally agree. It's dangerous for them to be out there. It's a traffic hazard. But like I said, I think it's trying to treat the underlying issues with these individuals, and it's a long battle. It's a long battle. It doesn't happen overnight. But West Warwick has made big strides in the last couple of years. Like I said, between the organizations, and I know you wanted to tie them into this with Be the Change, Help the Homeless, and our own behavioral health navigator here in West Warwick. I think we've made great strides here in the last 2 years.
And again, this was brought before us a year ago, and yes, panhandling was a little heavier then, because we did have some issues going on in town, Pulaski Street to be exact. As I stated last time, it's not as an epidemic as everybody thinks it is here in West Warwick, but I thought it was a good idea. I brought it before the council. That's all I've asked at that time. Al worked on it, he looked at it, and he brought it before us because he also brought us signs from Florida and other communities throughout the country.
To give it a little bit of background, when Dave asked me to look at this, the first thing I did was I went back to the beginning of why is panhandling not allowed. And I spoke with Mark DeSisto, who was the attorney who had represented Cranston in their case, and I spoke with the attorney for the solicitor for the city of Orlando, Florida, where I know they've done quite a bit on it. In going into the Cranston case and the Florida situation, primarily the courts prohibit ordinances that deny panhandling because you're denying free speech, you're denying right to assembly, you're denying a lot of rights. In Orlando, for example, they used to paint a square on the sidewalk. They called it the blue box, and they allowed panhandlers to stand in that blue box and panhandling. That was struck down in the city of Tampa. Orlando now has an ordinance that denies panhandling for aggressive panhandling, and they define what is meant by aggressive panhandling. When I spoke with the attorney for the city of Orlando, his comment to me was, don't bother with our ordinance because it'll never meet your Cranston test. So basically, I looked at this, are we depriving anybody of any rights? Be they First Amendment, be they assembly, be they speech? And I said, no, all we're doing is putting out an informational pamphlet so that I felt comfortable. I noticed somewhere along the line that the ACLU, whether it was in the paper or something, and I felt comfortable that we were not crossing, I'll call it the constitutional line, in depriving anybody of anything, and all we were doing was putting out information. And to address Councilman D'Amico's comments, the ordinance and the language that I proposed, I merely took the sign that was in Fitchburg and I submitted it to the council for the council's first step, a beginning point. In the city of Vero Beach, there is a very similar ordinance, and the signs are everywhere, and that says, quote, due to public safety concerns, panhandling is discouraged. Please donate to local charitable organizations, and that's underlined in heavy black letters. And that's the sign that, as you see, I happen to live in Vero Beach, and that's the sign you see there. There have been other signs that I've seen. I've been back here, so I don't have those at my fingertips. But to address your situation, I think that the language can be changed. I just took that to put something before the council.
Work in progress.
Not as, this is the boilerplate that I shouldn't say I want to see. This is the boilerplate you should have. There's other alternatives, and I think anybody, especially you, Councilman D'Amico, could come up with language that is softer, that is, again, the thing is, we're not depriving, we're saying to the members of the public and to the people in need, look, here's a better way to do this than to have you standing in the rain on a cold day, hoping to get some money. And so that's from the legal aspect of it, where this that I presented you comes from.
Thank you. Any questions for Al? Any public comment? Mr. Gadro?
President Goslin, my name is Michael Gadro. I live at 22 Shippey Avenue. You open this discussion by stating that we have violent people as panhandlers, that one gentleman dropped a body off on Pulaski Street, and another one was outside of a school or a daycare.
Same individual.
Okay. That these people have addictions, and the money is going to their addictions and not for them. We do not know the reason that that person is out on that street corner. Do they have a family? Are they really homeless? Or they're not, maybe they're out there panhandling, not saying they're homeless, but they're trying to get money to help make ends meet because they're not getting enough money for their family. This statement that you started with is labeling them.
Mr. Gadro, I actually said every panhandler has their own story.
But when you focus on panhandlers shouldn't be there because it's a public safety problem, I don't agree with that. The police in this town label panhandlers, the elderly, and the disabled. I was talking with one man today. He was a panhandler here. He lives in a camper. And he says how the cops used to harass him. They're afraid to step forward. I've got a big mouth and I don't care. I step forward. I thank you for your offer to ride around with me in my car because I've complained and given witness statements of being flipped off by cops, being followed. I'm still waiting for you to name the time and the date. You've stated that you would sit down to resolve things. I'm still
Mr.
waiting.
Can we return to the question?
No, but,
Gadro,
This is not
please
germane.
Stick to panhandling, please.
okay? But the whole problem is this council gives nothing but lip service. They do not act for the citizens. They act for the special interests. If you want to start a program where the businesses are putting these signs in and it's voluntary, that's fine. If you want to start a program where when the police go to a panhandler and they have some intervention for them,
We actually do have that program right now with our behavioral health navigator.
that's only when they get arrested. I went through
It's not
that.
necessarily the case.
I went through it.
It's actually the opposite. It's actually to avoid them going to incarceration. So it's not always just to arrest them. I've had many
Yeah.
conversations with our behavioral health navigator. Major
The
Nack could confirm that.
The advocate, they come in. When you're brought down to the station, it's because you're getting your chops busted by a cop
But I'm just
for
telling you,
some reason.
I've dealt very closely with that program, and that's not the case. It's to try to avoid that situation from happening. Somebody has a mental health issue. Somebody's addicted to drugs.
And who says they have that
and-
mental
and there's-
health issue? Who brought that up?
We have a trained behavioral health navigator, a licensed.
And where is
mental-
she? She's in the police station, is she not? Does she go out to the site?
Yes, she does.
Okay. How often?
She's out there 5 days a week, I would think, or more.
She's in the police station 5 days a week.
She is out.
Please,
She is out there. She is out there.
if she's here tonight,
No,
let her
she-
come up and
she's
say
there.
how many times she goes out there.
She's out there every day. She's out there every day.
Gentlemen, you just relax.
These
just wanted to
people are
clarify.
out there. They're not a problem. There's not that many of them around. For us as a town to put up signs and label them as a problem is going to bring more attraction on this problem to the town where we don't need it. As I say, if the businesses want to do something and they want to put the signs up, that's fine. Let the business organization do it. But for the town to start off with this, putting the signs out, before they've had any other program going out there on a long term, it's not right. They should not be labeled. They need help? Fine. You've got programs where you worked with the homeless camp and you got some of those out. Others were driven out of town. There is nothing wrong with being homeless. There's nothing to be shamed about. They are people, and they needed to be treated with respect. And what we're doing by putting these signs out is labeling them and setting them up without any issues happening. We're trying to put something together to avoid something that isn't a problem here in this town.
Thank you, Mr. Gadro.
Good evening, gentlemen. Tom Oates, Colonial Way. Mr. Gadro, I sympathize for the issues you have. However, respectfully, I have to disagree. The police department of West Warwick, I've been here my entire life, and I've never had anything but #1 support from all of them. That's my opinion. Thank you. However, on the resolution, I believe it's stated, and this is not verbatim, of course, that we've had a number of people who have complained about panhandling. Have these complaints been in writing, or are they just a verbal? And approximately how many? I have 2 questions, and you can answer them any way you'd like. The second one is you stated that there is at least 10 here in West Warwick, and then on in Warwick and Cranston, it gets much worse. We've also mentioned Orlando and Cranston and Vero Beach and Tampa and Providence and all these other communities that have huge problems. I'm asking, where in this town do we have panhandlers in the last year?
There's still some on the rocks,
There's-
which he talked
Okay,
about.
that's, well, excuse
Let me
me, on
clarify.
the, let me finish, please, on the
thought you were
rocks,
gonna
on the,
ask me
excuse
Christ the
me,
ki- Christ the
do I have
king.
to stop over? Do I have to start over?
Mr. Oates,
I will start over.
hold on. You said you had 2 questions. You offered
And I
2
have not
questions.
finished before I was interrupted by
Mr.
Councilman
Oates.
Messier.
Please,
I'm,
finish.
yeah. Okay, let me, okay, great. Now, where in West Warwick are all these panhandlers? I do know that there is a problem on the corner of Legris and New London Avenue, but the corner in question is actually Warwick. The other 3 corners are West Warwick, and you cannot tell me that the other 3 corners that make up West Warwick has a panhandling issue. There is a gentleman who panhandles in front of On the Rocks, and people give him food and drinks and so on and so forth. And guess who's stuck cleaning up the mess when he hits Joyles or heads home? Mr. Rock and his son are the ones that there because he just leaves it there. That's the problem. And I understand we're talking feet from West Warwick.
They
that's
do
the only,
navigate to the
excuse me,
four
excuse,
corners.
I'm not done. Please.
course.
That's one that I know of close enough to West Warwick. Where are the others in the town of West Warwick that we're concerned with? That's my question.
All set?
Yes.
Okay, so the answer to your second question. The individuals that you're talking about on the rocks walk across the street during red lights, back and forth, back and forth. Also, when police officers do arrive, if it's a West Warwick officer, they go across the street. If it's a Warwick officer, they come off to the West Warwick side. So there's 5 to 10, and I said 10, I did not say 10, I said 5 to 10.
Oh, 5 to
Okay?
10.
I don't know every individual. As I said, it's not an epidemic. We don't have 100 people here. We have a handful,
David.
okay? Now, it's happened in Natick, it's happened and ironically, when we were interviewing with Channel 10 outside the front of Town Hall, a panhandler pulled up on a bike and he said, I panhandle here in West Warwick. And he gave me the reasons why he panhandles. And it had nothing to do with being homeless. It had to be because his check doesn't meet the month-to-month expenses for him. And I felt bad for the individual.
I understand, and
Okay,
I,
But he told me he panhandled. He told me point blank, he knows 4, 5, 6 guys that are having the same issue he's having. That's a totally different issue. And they panhandle here in West Warwick.
Does he know-
Do I drive around every single corner and say, oh, there's a panhandler, oh, there's a panhandler? Absolutely not,
I do.
okay? But again, I see it, and other people have seen it, and if you want to believe in social media, a lot of people have seen it here in West Warwick.
Well,
And a lot of people haven't seen it here in West
Well,
Warwick.
the complaints, whoever made the complaints, I'm very interested to find out who complained. I don't need to know the names, but where the intersection or where the place is that these
So
people
as-
are accused, that's not the right word, but where these people are allegedly panhandling, they're not.
Okay.
I mean, my father's 86 years old. I ride around with him all day because I'm broke down and disabled now, and I've got nothing to do but ride around and relax with him, and I'm all over this town, all day long, visiting people and doing things, and the only place I ever see is the one gentleman at the establishment that you are familiar with there, on the Rocks, and that is actually Warwick. We did have a problem a year and a half ago when Mr. Licciardi and his wife and that other group of people helped out those homeless people. They were out hitting the intersections as well. There was a gentleman, Mr. F., and his wife and the dog that used to be out on the opposite corner. That was West Warwick. But we're talking well over a year ago. I just don't see the problem in this town, thank God. And I totally appreciate your concern for the down and out, because there's people that are down and out and they need the help, they need the leg up. Just like those people that were living behind me on Pulaski Street. They got a leg up, now they're all in homes, they all have jobs, they're all doing good because they got the leg up that they needed. I just don't see the problem in West Warwick anymore. Same subject, maybe not, but 6 months ago, I requested the town council to look at a sign about dumping in this community. and it was a sign that was Rhode Island Wave, littering and dumping, fines from $85 to $1,000. 6 months ago, we could not afford one of those signs. Thank you.
Tom, we have those signs.
Beg your pardon?
We have those signs down DPW.
How come they're not up on Pulaski Street, on Manchester Street, down in Natick?
You can ask your councilman, he can make that request.
There you go, Jason, it's on you.
That-
Where are those signs gonna come up in
That-
this town? And
that's-
I'm not Talking Jason Licciardi's
Well,
ward.
I'm in favor of the sign in that spot. The spot you're talking about is in Jason Licciardi's ward, but I'm in favor.
doesn't matter the
I'm in
ward.
favor- I'm in favor of it.
Guys,
It
I
doesn't
agree with
matter,
you.
it doesn't matter the ward, it's the town.
I agree with you.
All right,
It's the
Tom,
town.
Tom,
I'm agreeing with you.
Jay, stop, please.
Those signs are at the
Tom,
DPW?
stop. We're off subject, stick to.
This is the subject, it's the signage.
But the sign is not on, your sign you're talking about is not on agenda. so
Tom,
we can
if you
talk
send me
about it later.
send me an email and send me an email tonight, and I'll forward it to the DPW in the morning.
I'll
Fair
do
enough?
that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wu?
Good evening, Council. Richard Hool, Pike Street, West Warwick. I'm going to start off just by saying I think the signs are a waste of money. We have no parking signs. People don't follow them. We have speeding signs. People don't follow them. Who's going to enforce them? Mr. Council President, you state that safety of the citizens and the traffic. Where's the data that you came up with that? In the Cranston case, Cranston they have data backing up their case. You keep mentioning safety, traffic concerns, people have been hit. Do you have any information on that?
We had one person get hit on Pulaski Street.
Was that due to panhandling, or was that due to a
Homeless.
driver on their phone, or
Homeless.
what was due to it?
Homeless.
Homeless what? It doesn't.
A homeless person walking down the middle of the street.
So I could have been walking down the middle of the street and been hit at the
Correct.
same time?
Yes.
Okay, just want to
Well,
make
let me
sure.
ask you something. This
Yeah.
has no enforcement. You keep talking about enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
There's no legal enforcement. No police officer will enforce this. There is no legal matter in here. Speed limits.
I didn't say anything
speeds-
about
Yeah,
enforcement.
you said who's going to enforce this?
I
Who's
said,
gonna-
where's the
nobody.
data? People don't follow speed limit signs is
Go
what I
back to your
said.
first sentence, Mr. Hu. You said
It's
who's
written
going to
down.
enforce this?
You state safety of citizens and traffic. There is no data that you have brought forward to back these claims up. That's my first sentence, Mr.
No, the first
President.
you did say who's going to enforce this.
Perfect. Who's going to enforce the no parking signs? Who's going to enforce the speeding signs?
Those are all laws
I've
and
used a
ordinances.
sign as a reference to the sign that you want to place.
Mr.
It's
Hu,
a
let me-
reference.
Let me
It's just an.
clarify something.
Yep.
What you're talking about are laws and ordinances. This sign is not a law.
It was a reference to show that people don't follow signs. It's a reference. You don't understand what a reference is, right?
I understand very well
Okay,
what a reference
perfect.
is.
You say, I'd rather see some outreach programs. So you want to spend money on signs, like Council Messier said, why don't we put it towards some outreach programs? There was a problem in the past, and most of them folks have been part of an outreach program, and they're no longer there. You state that we don't know who these people are. I don't know who people are when I'm walking by them. Why do they have to be a panhandle in order for you to make that statement? We walk by people all day long. I don't know half the people in this room. I'm still going to walk by them. I don't fear for my safety. So I didn't really appreciate that comment. I thought you were labeling them in another way. Who's going to maintain the signs? You put one up, $250. Someone knocks it down. Who's going to put it back up?
Sign is not $250.
What, $240? What'd you say?
No, no.
It's
I said
$240 for
signs
all of
combined,
them.
It's $30 to $50 a sign.
So $30 to $50. Who's going to maintain it if someone puts it down? You going to put one back up again? My other question is, you want to put so much information on one sign. What size are these signs going to be? Because if they're small, how many car lengths back are you even going to be able to read it? Won't that sign itself create a traffic? People stopping to try to read it?
Richard, I don't have the actual sign size. I have it in a picture format. It's in the
So it's
beginning
like, it looked
stages.
like the size of like a no parking sign?
The yield sign.
So so they're larger, like a yield sign? Okay. I just think that the money that you want to spend on these signs could be spent elsewhere.
Okay,
Lower on our
again, I just
taxes.
said it might not be taxpayers' money, it might be business money that want to donate.
Perfect.
Again, not taxpayers' money, not.
But we're going to maintain them, we're going to have our guys put them up, so at the end of the day, no matter who buys the signs, the taxpayers are paying for them.
Okay. Maybe the business will put them up. Thank you.
Good evening, Richard Garganter from 319 Providence Street. I listened very carefully to your thoughts I thought it was well thought out. And if I could go over your bullet list again, I asked myself a question when I was sitting down, after every bullet point you made, how will that stop panhandling? And I got, it's not. It's not. It's not. Nothing you said, none of those points that you made, these signs will not
Well,
matter.
one of the points I did say was with Kevin McLean being the Director of Homeless Services. He works with our local police department, so I did say maybe we have a local organization that wants to work with our police department and go out and meet these individuals and discuss what their issues are and discuss what their options are. So that was a solution.
Okay, but that has nothing to do with the
signs.
signs.
Also give people ideas and where to help others. Also, it's also to help those individuals. So for instance, if the homeless services were here, the director of Our Father's House was here in West Warwick, and they wanted their name on the sign. And if they wanted to purchase the sign and put it up, maybe the donation could go to them so they can get more and more revenue to help out and get these individuals in homes, place of employment, etc.
Okay, well, nothing you said has changed my mind, that these signs are going to do nothing but demonize the poor. That's really what it's about. And it was very interesting that if you listen to the comments of this gentleman that was behind me, he was talking about stopping panhandling. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about just trying to get people to give money to organizations. He went to cities where they tried to stop panhandling. This is a demonization of the poor. It's a very light method of doing so, I agree, but it's a method to demonize the poor. I think we'd better spend our money on more things where you get a better result.
And again, sir, that's not my intention. I
Okay.
just want to let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alan Palazzo, 5 Robin Lane, West Warwick, and I call it the way I see it. 2 or 3 years ago, are you getting feedback?
Just back up
Yeah.
a little bit.
Okay. 2 or 3 years ago, we did have issues here in West Warwick. Christ the King, yes. Over here, yes. In the past 6 months, I have seen approximately, or I will say, I have seen one panhandler on the corner at On the Rocks, which is Warwick. If we have these outreach programs and we have somebody assigned to the police station, why are we even considering this? Why aren't they out there every day talking to these people? If a police officer patrolling the town sees someone, call back to the station and have someone come up to try and help them, okay? I don't care about Vero Beach, Florida. I don't care about Tampa. I don't care about any community in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I care about West Warwick. And I've heard a total of $250 for the signs. Best case basis, 9 signs. Okay, we're gonna put them on one corner, we're gonna put them on 4. That covers a little over 2 intersections, okay? We're not spending any money, with all due respect to Al. He's a great attorney. I was just wondering how much we spent in legal fees for his services just to do the research. And I love Al, but that's still taxpayer money.
This was all research that was done over a year ago from a previous ordinance.
I believe he just said this was recent. Some of it was just recent, wasn't it?
I just reviewed what I had done.
Okay, but we still expended money on that. To me, you were talking about safety, and I love the West Warwick Fire Department. And I'm not sure of the, fill the boots. To me, that's a safety issue. Are we going to stop these people? That's a community effort to help the people in West Warwick. But that is just as dangerous as someone stepping off the curb because the cars are stopping, they're going forward, they're leaning. I see no difference between the two. The West Warwick Fire Department is great. I applaud their efforts. But this I don't see. We're talking about other safety. I still recall several years ago when a gentleman slipped on sand over here on, East Main and fell under a ripped bus because the sidewalk was still covered with sand. And he was killed. That bothered me because why wasn't the sand removed from that sidewalk? That was a safety issue, and I believe the person was handicapped, and that's why he slipped and fell. That bothered me. I'm surprised they didn't come back at the town for that. I keep hearing you throwing out numbers. I watch a lot of Perry Mason lately, and I see a lot of objections. That's hearsay. It's not allowed. You know, facts. I deal in facts, not hearsay. And to me, I've heard a lot of hearsay. I don't see anything helping any people. I see a lot of publicity for this town, which we don't need. And in my honest opinion, this was just something to gather publicity
Alan,
during the campaign. Excuse me, please
Alan,
don't interrupt me.
Let me
No,
cut you
no,
off
no,
here, because
pl-
I'm going to tell you something right now. Well before campaign season, this was sent to the council. Okay, this has nothing to do with campaign season, and I'm going to tell you something right now. I had no idea, none, that this would blow up to the way it did over the past 2 weeks. Zero knowledge of what was going to happen as far as Channel 10, Channel 12, WPRO, and every other news station trying to get in touch with me. I didn't go looking for them. They came looking for me to interview me and ask me. I did not want this, okay? This is something I thought, and I work on safety issues every single day. I've brought tobacco issues, I brought this issue, we brought opioid issues before this council over the past 2 years. This is nothing to do with campaigning, plain and simple, so don't turn it into that. Thank you.
Mr. Goslin, thank you for interrupting me. I will just leave with one last statement. I wasn't born yesterday. I was born in 1952. Hopefully you can understand that.
You got a 50-year anniversary coming up, too.
That was uncalled for.
Excuse me. Ann, excuse me.
Yes, go right ahead.
I'll tell you, I can't believe what's coming out of the mouths of these councilors.
Okay, for those of you who do not understand that, we are in the month of August. In August 1969, myself, a 16-year-old boy, was involved in a fatal
Alan, you're off the
accident.
agenda.
2 of my friends died in that. That, I believe, in my opinion, is what he was referring to.
No, that was not what I was referring to, and I'll talk to you outside if you'd like to talk about it, okay?
You brought it up in the public.
Mr. Gadreau, thank you.
That's why we need to get rid of you.
Title 42 states that a public person can bring up a subject at an open meeting like this, even if it is not on the agenda. So please, I would consult with your legal person. What this has done to our community is made us, excuse me, are we allowed to speak without being interrupted? Thank you, I appreciate that, sir. This community didn't need this kind of controversy for absolutely no reason. For a handful of people that no one, I would love to see all these complaints that you seem to think we're getting.
You know, I've said,
I'm not done, sir, please.
Yeah,
I will not interrupt you if you will not interrupt me. I think that's
This is
public
not really
opinion.
on topic, though. Shouldn't we get back on topic?
We're
to
on
the public
topic, sir.
comments
I apologize
regarding-
if, listen,
Again, I would like to finish what I was about to say, and then you can say whatever you want, because that's the way it works around here. These individuals are not doing anything as far as I have seen, where I have seen them personally, and only one by On the Rocks. After what Councilman Licciardi did a year ago, our problem has dropped drastically. And as Councilman Messier has said, we have programs in this town. We have charitable organizations that are here to help people, and we are now looking like the town that is not very friendly, let's put it that way. When those radio stations, TV stations called you, all you had to do was say no, you're not interested in bringing this subject up. It wasn't necessary. So that's what I'm trying to get across. We have services here. We have great people in this town that would give the shirt off their back to people. So how about we start treating the residents of West Warwick as the wonderful, generous people that they are, and not make us look like people that, first of all, have to be told by our town where we should spend our money. It's not the town's right to suggest where we give our cash. Thank you.
and I just want to reiterate, again, I had no idea what these signs were going to do. I brought this before the council. Last council meeting, not one council member was against these signs. So we moved forward. Again, if the council decides they don't want the signs, they don't have to have the signs. Maybe I laid the foundation for other cities and towns. I don't know. We'll see from here. Again, this was about safety and welfare of our community. Nothing else. It wasn't anti-panhandling, it wasn't anti-homeless. I just want to reiterate that. Thank you. Mrs. Reed?
Donna Reed, 62 Andrews Avenue. You're talking about safety in our town. Well, I think it'd be better spent to have signs put up to please drive with your lights on when you leave a town council meeting, so your town solicitor doesn't drive to town with no lights on at 50 miles an hour. Just saying.
Can we vote on this now?
No more public comment.
Let's just-
That being said, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
No.
Angelo?
No.
John?
No.
No, it is.
Cancellation of taxes. Resolved that the attached cancellation in the amount of $8,002.61 presented to the tax assessor for approval of the town council in accordance with Article 25, Section 5 of the West Warwick Code of Ordinances is hereby approved. The original list is on file in the office of the tax assessor.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mary Ann, before you go, can we have some individuals that have been outside, a couple of lawyers. Can we move R up to next, please? Can I make a motion to move R?
I'll second.
All in favor to move on?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Paula, did they hear me? Okay, thank you.
Ordinance number 2018-22, first reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, an ordinance approving an extended tax exemption and stabilization program for 69 Washington Street.
I'll move the ordinance.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion?
I'm gonna let these gentlemen take over, but this is for the property, for the former Holmes building, which was recently knocked down over this past spring. And these gentlemen are gonna talk about the potential future plans of that property.
Good evening, members of the council. I'm here tonight in my capacity as receiver for the property at 69 Washington Street on the application for the tax stabilization. I'm also here this evening with my colleague, Mr. Indalia, who represents the owner of the property. Because this property has not been in front of the council previously, I did want to give the council some update on what both the owner and the receivership have done in coordination to work with this property and develop a plan of abatement, that part of which is in front of the council this evening. I was appointed as temporary receiver by the housing court last year. Upon my appointment, there were really two primary objectives which the court tasked me with. Those objectives being, first, to eliminate the public nuisance conditions that existed at the property, and then secondarily to work with the owner to come up with a proposed plan of abatement to try and put the property back into some type of economically viable use. In terms of the public nuisance aspect of the property, as I'm sure members of the council are aware, the property, the building structures were demolished, and the public nuisance issue at this point has been addressed, and that's to the credit of the owner of the property, who did engage with me very early on in the receivership process and made a commitment to get the building down, and was able to do that through his efforts. Subsequent to that, we worked with the owner to put together a plan for the proposed redevelopment of the site to include 8 residential condominium units. There is a component of that plan that allows for a commercial unit to be situated upon the frontage on Washington Street. That plan, after it was put together, we appeared before the redevelopment agency, went through that plan. The redevelopment agency has granted approval of that plan, and as a component of that, we have the tax stabilization that's before the council tonight. The purpose of the tax stabilization is really to allow the developer to go forward and get this project out of the ground and provide some tax relief while the development goes forward. In terms of the specifics of the tax stabilization agreement, I'll let the owner's council walk the council through that. We did work through a couple of questions that we received on the agreement previously, and those are the red lines that are in front of the council now.
Can I just interrupt you for 1 minute? This property was not
Yes, sir.
abandoned. It's the same owner that owned it that was getting cited by the town to take it down. Did it change ownership in the past 6 months?
It didn't change ownership. The way that this process started, and this was really, I think, a good move on the town's part, which has now led to some good progress on this property. The town filed a petition for receivership with the housing court, and the two things that the town had to allege in that petition was that the property was both abandoned and a public nuisance, and this is all brought under the Abandoned Property Act. And under the Abandoned Property Act, the term abandonment's not defined in the literal context. There are specific factors that the court looks to, such as are rents being collected on the property, how long has it been unoccupied, are there issues with vandalism or trespassers. And based on all of that, the court appointed me as the temporary receiver. Once I get appointed in this type of situation as a temporary receiver, we provide notice to the owners, the lien holders, anybody who has an interest in the property. And that's why I started off by saying in this case, as soon as we provided notice to the owner and Mr. Indalia on his behalf did engage with us very quickly in that process to indicate that they do have an interest in trying to do something productive with the property. We were able to work out protocols early on in the receivership process that Mr. Indalia's client made commitments to both knock the building down and then with the assistance of the receivership to propose a plan to try and redevelop the property. So the term abandonment is just one of the criteria that the town had to allege in its petition.
Thanks, John.
Any questions?
If I can, I'll let Mr. Indalia explain the terms of the tax stabilization.
My name is Vincent Indalia, and I represent the owner, which is Coastal Construction. And I've had the opportunity to meet with the manager, your tax assessor, and we've had the opportunity to appear before your redevelopment agency. Some of the members of the council appeared before the redevelopment agency at the hearings we held. So what the tax stabilization agreement, which we're proposing, accomplishes is it creates an ability for the owner to construct all of these units and stabilize a tax base which would be more tax revenue for the town than what is currently being collected and has been historically in the past, and would phase in over a period of 10 years until the tax was at a market value or a tax assessed rate, and then there would be no more reduced tax or stabilized tax. We provided to your manager at earlier meetings, as well as the staff of the planning board, as well as the redevelopment agency, and a complete analysis, open transparency of what the costs would be to not only demolish the building, but to do new construction to code for these 8 units of residential living, which we would ultimately propose a condominium agreement or association would be created there. And the costs are high, and the area is, for lack of a better term or a legal term, is somewhat blighted, but hopefully it will be on the way back up. And the sales prices of condominium units, if they could be sold or if they're held by the owner as apartments, are modest. So what this ordinance provides is that opportunity, and it's done in other cities and towns, and you guys have done it on other projects such as Lippet Mill, I know for my understanding, is found at page 3, and it shows you what the current tax paid on the property is and what the current tax to be paid on the property would be if you were to grant this ordinance. You'll see in one of the handouts that I gave you, it's redlined, and those red lines are changes that we made based upon the request of your manager, your assessor, and the comments that we got back from the redevelopment agency. One of the biggest comments that's included in there was, to paraphrase, we've heard it before, we want to see some action here if we do something.
And that was something that I insisted on when we met, was we kind of, the project with the post office, the old post office, we kind of made an agreement hoping that something would happen immediately. So I insisted there's something in here, so there's like a finite time window for something to happen, otherwise this tax stabilization is gone, so.
Which is 120 days, is that correct?
It would be 120 days from the time we received all of the, we have to go back to the redevelopment agency if you were to approve this, and once they have one more meeting when they give us final approval. From that point in time, we would have 120 days to get our foundation permit and start moving. My client tells me, if you get me that final approval, I'll even move faster, but I wanted to be realistic because I know your engineers have to look at those things, and I don't know the backlog of the building inspector. But that was the finite period, Mr. Messier, which I thought was appropriate, and I would hope you would agree with was a fine time frame. The other change that we made was at the request of the manager and I believe the assessor, which was that these schedules apply to the improvements that are being made, and the improvements would be the physical building, not the land. And as you all know, being residents of the town of West Warwick, you receive a tax bill, and in one column it says the land value, and in the other column it says the building value. These apply to the building value. The land value would remain the same as what it is now, and there would be no reduction in that tax. It would continue to be paid so that the town is always on par with what it's been getting, and as the building is completed, it will have additional tax revenue. Not full tax revenue as if it was brandy new, but it'll be phased in over the 10-year period. So your town ordinances allow for this, and in fact promote it in this district that's, in the center of Main Street on Washington Street. The recommendation from your redevelopment agency recommended that there be some incentives to be provided, and if this developer was the one that actually did it, it was hoped in an idealistic sense and a non-political sense that it would advance others to step forward and start to redevelop their properties. And finally, state law, which is cited throughout here, allows for this type of an ordinance to be created by the town, even if you're not in a redevelopment agency or a blighted area. And we found it to be successful in locations like Victory Square, down in Providence, the Renaissance Hotel, which once had that big Masonic temple. That was another one. Anthony Mills, right over your border in Coventry, that was another one. That's actually phasing out. There's only 2 more years left on it. And so when you have somebody that actually puts a shovel in the ground and actually gets it going, it does seem to be an incentive that doesn't cost the town money, eventually evaporates, and can be monitored, and hopefully stimulates both some economic growth and, in this case, some cleanup growth. So we're asking that this is really our final step, and it's the only ask we've asked from the town. Mr. Padula, you were correct that this building, when it was purchased by my client, was already dilapidated, and there was no incentives or work being done during the economic downturn 2009, and it doesn't make an excuse for it, and we know it, but we know that we're moving forward with it, and it's better than what was there yesterday.
The only thing that bothers me on this is condos. I mean, I was on the planning board then, and I was against the Royal Mills because they backed out of condos and made them apartments. And I was always wondering if it was going to be Section 8, which probably, after their tax stabilization, their tax agreement runs out, if no one rents anymore, then it can turn out to be just that. I mean, Arctic, we need commercial buildings, we need rehabilitation on all the streets there, which I don't see happening in a long time, and believe me, I like people like this to come up with it. The only thing that I'm skeptical on is the condos.
So here's, I think, just to kind of fill you in on a few of the things that have taken place, which I've been following fairly closely. Mr. Wilbur has kept in line with what the Arctic Redevelopment Agency has been proposing to him all the way through. He's done a lot of little things to try to put something in place that makes sense. He's gone as far as keeping the original home sign, which he intends to put back up. The way this structure works, for the people who are not familiar with it, there will be 8 units. Okay, essentially they're sideways. The front unit, which will be along Washington Street, that's a commercial building, so it keeps with sort of like the area itself. That's what we want, okay? But also thinking ahead, we want to create some kind of walking community. So essentially we have the commercial in the front and we have homeowners behind it who will have a stake in the community. They're not renting, they're homeowners, they'll have a stake, okay? And this is one good step in moving Arctic forward. So I think it's a good thing.
Well, we can agree to disagree.
And I think it's also, we brought this up at the redevelopment when there was some concern, is it's something that's happening. We had a building that was sitting there dilapidated, it's gone, we're gonna put something else there. You need to start somewhere.
The business owners have been asking for years for something to happen. I have been attending the Arctic Village Association meetings for quite some time, and time after time, and Councilman Messier can attest to this, the business owners kept coming forward, please, you have to do something about this. The owners of the Hong Kong practically crying because it was affecting her business so much. We've done something about it. We're moving this forward. Mr. Wilbur has pretty much done everything that's been asked of him.
And there's been some momentum, which I think is a key thing that people, when the building got knocked down, yes, people were sad because it was a historical building, but the building needed to come down. And we have a lot of growth between that, the Arctic Playhouse. There's a possible another project coming up in the next couple of months right in downtown Arctic. I think that's how you begin the process. This is just the first step in that process.
So, I can tell you, to give credit where credit's due, from your building department through your solicitor's office, they found a tool to help clean up blight. And what they did was they found this tool that Mr. Dorsey's very familiar with, by really forcing somebody to either step up to the plate or move out, and hopefully, so that your court did that, and then Mr. Dorsey took the bill by the horns by working with me and the client to find something that was cooperative. And I understand residential shouldn't be a bad word, but the ordinance allows for us to have a commercial use for that front building if it can be successful, and it allows for us to have people living there. I think Mr. Messier stated it could be a jump start. This is one private individual doing it. It then becomes incumbent upon the other owners to be incentivized as the agency's designed to do. And I hope that this isn't looked at as a bad thing.
No, just one other thing. What would happen if the condos don't sell?
Mr. Wilbur would still continue to own them. He'd have to service the debt on them.
But what would the apartments, what would they be, the condos be turned into apartments?
Well, they would always remain once you declare it as a condo, legally it stays a condo. So he'll have 8 condominium units. There'll be condominiums. He could rent them and own them if he wanted to, but I'll be very candid with you and the people in the town. There's not a lot of extra cash in this deal, and his plan is to sell them, let homeowners who have some pride in paying $200,000 for a brand new unit take them over, and they'll have their own association to manage and run. Some of the things that we agreed to, and it'll be part of the restrictive covenants from the redevelopment agency, is that this association and the owner, for as long as he owns it, no public trash pickup, it'll have to be privatized, snow removal, privatized, all those types of things. But the answer to your question is yeah, you don't keep empty buildings, because when you keep empty buildings, you end up with the homes building again.
And then also they're going to be working with the Arctic redevelopment to have the aesthetics outside fit with
right, so
the theme of what they want for Arctic.
Right, so we presented some diagrams and showings of what the front was going to look like. And we were very clear to them that we weren't married to any one design, because the redevelopment agency has authority over doing that. And so at the hearing, they said, we want you to come back after you go to the town council and show us what your architect can do, and please take a look at the bank.
Centerville Bank over here.
Yes, thank you, Centerville Bank. They pointed out a couple of others, brick structure. Mr. Wilbur and his team have kept some of the old brick, or most of the old brick from the building, to see if any of it can be reclaimed, and they're willing to use it as the fascia on the building, assuming that that's what the council wants to see, but otherwise they'll use new brick, just like it is across the street. So it was meant to be kept in the same architectural fascia along Washington Street.
And parking, because I know that was brought up at the issue, there's going to be plenty of parking there, there's at least two
We're
for each
not,
condo. And
we don't need any variances or exceptions or special use permits or any of that from the council, from the planning or zoning. Everything meets the setbacks.
There's plenty of room back there.
Plenty of room back there, and additional parking actually for handicapped, and for what's required under your ordinances, we'll have 2 extra spaces. We were asked questions about, well, what if people spill over, and I think somebody pointed out that the next lot is actually a municipal parking lot.
Yep.
That's what I can answer. We would really urge you to pass this, because we end up going back to square one if we can't get this boost.
I believe I'm making a motion to the amended ordinance, correct?
Correct. Well, there's no ordinance, it's the redlined version shows you what was proposed, and the redlined version would be, if you agreed to it, it has all the changes that you asked for, and then we would provide a clean copy, obviously, for the second reading. Is that, Mr. Williamson probably knows your process better than I do.
That would be acceptable for the second reading, however, it's because there's going to be a hearing. You could move to amend and add the red line version. Mr. Manager, that's what was agreed upon?
I'd also ask the tax assessor to come up and give any comments he has. I have a question on number 6.
Yes, sir.
The value of the land. The land value would be, under this proposal, the current land value for the term of the agreement.
Correct.
So when we have revaluations coming up, that would not be affected by, a revaluation would not be affected, this would not be affected by a revaluation.
Right, it would be stabilized for the 10 years, so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it's valued at, but say it was, $100,000, it's going to stay at $100,000 until the end. I think that's a very high number. I don't think it's that much, but as an example. And then at the end of the 10 years, you would have a new reval, and it goes wherever it is. But we're not asking for it to be phased in as a 10, 20, 30 as the building is.
A couple of the other items here, it's, we don't know what future tax rates are going to be. What's on this is not set in stone. It says 3920 for each of the years involved, but it may be more, it may be less, and they've agreed to obviously adhere to that. The land value may change from reval to reval, but they don't change that drastically.
The question is there too much on the red line version to have the council vote tonight on the first reading, or should it be amended and be brought back to the council for its first reading?
I see all the changes that we talked about on this reading.
All right, so if the council wants to amend to accept the red line version with what the tax assessors indicated and also what the town managers indicated, you can vote on that amended version tonight, and then it's going to be up for a second vote at the next time it's on the agenda.
We could put it on the agenda. We're going to have a special meeting at the end of this month. We could put it on the meeting for that one, correct? So we could have this done by the end of August for you gentlemen, provided that it passes tonight.
Well, you still have 20 days.
I think everybody heard the tax assessor say that the rates could go up and down, and I saw a lot of people jump up and down when they heard tax rates could go down.
They will next year.
And we're going to be 18 again.
Anna Spodnik, Carpenter Court. I'm not really here for a question. I'm just here to say I am very familiar with Kevin Wilbur. He is an amazing individual when it comes to construction. I had the pleasure of working for his family 30 years ago. I think you couldn't have picked a better developer to come into this town, because if there's anybody that can make a difference, I know the Wilbur family very, very well. They're quality work. They know what they're doing, and I think we should welcome them.
Thank you, Ann. Any other comment?
do you need to state
Tom
it?
Cumes, 60 Andrews Avenue, West Warwick. I want to know where you're going to find 9 people who spent $200,000 on a condominium in downtown Arctic.
Do we want to answer that?
Find people crazy, they're going to be what?
Well,
It's a blighted area, you ain't going to find nobody spent $200,000.
So the hope is that when you see that building, it won't be blighted. I can tell you we've already had some interest, including some of the owners that have the chicken place next door. They're young people. They're not married, but they've expressed an interest. And it's what my client's company does. They have that we've gone, I can tell you this, my client's been able to help me sell 33 houses in the abandoned property program, similar to what Mr. Dorsey does in the city of Providence, where people said, who's going to buy houses like this? And Kevin's built them, and we found the buyers for more than $200,000. He'd be thrilled if he had more than 200. The answer to your question is, I appreciate the luck, but we can't,
That's what you're going to need, pal. You're going to need a lot of luck.
Mr. Andrews, amazingly enough, I'm actually shocked myself because I've been looking at condos recently. My parents are getting on in years and they want to move out of their house. I am so surprised by how high they are selling. Even the development that's going in the Greenbush area, they're starting those condominiums at $339,000 a piece. I have to be honest, if it is a seller's market, I was a little bit shocked by it, but they are selling.
Thank you. Any other comment? State your name and address for the record, please.
Ronald Kuchar, 6 Ottawa Street, West Warwick. And about the development here, I'm all for it. I'm glad. When he said there's off-street parking, and if it overflows, has anyone been to that municipal lot lately? There's rebar sticking this far out. The curbs are all rotted. There's 4 or 5 needles. You can walk over there right now, and I'll point them out to you, because I was just there, well, actually the day before the rainstorm, which was Saturday. So you better clean that up. If
Thank you, Mr.
he's going to sell 200,000 condos there.
Thank you, Mr. Kuchar. Any other public comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote.
Do we
Jay?
have to make a motion for the...
Make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion for the amended ordinances. Move to amend.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor to amend?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Now I need a motion to move the ordinance.
And, make a motion to move the ordinance as amended.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yep.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Now all we gotta do is find one for existing businesses, give them the tax incentives. Why don't you work on something like that, John?
Thank you, gentlemen. And just so you
Thank
know,
you.
the date for the next, it'll be for second reading on
August 28th.
August 28th, 6 PM meeting. So that's what,
Thank you.
the second reading.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Excuse me.
Settlement of Narragansett Electric Company versus Christine Brushu, case number KC 2017-0204.
It's not gonna move.
They attached the settlement on here?
I don't have
Attach the settlement.
anything. I have nothing.
What item is it?
Yeah.
What number is it?
Oh, did you, where is it?
Just N.
Oh, no, I don't have it in my.
I make a motion to table.
Wait, you want to table it?
Wait, here's
Do
an
you have the
agreement.
paperwork?
Is the agreement on there?
Is this-
Yeah.
is this,
Oh, the agreement's on, my computer went dead.
Okay.
Agreement's right there, the settlement.
You don't have a copy of the settlement? Just waive the reading, please.
Go ahead. Wait for reading.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading.
Well, second.
You all right?
Motion to waive the reading, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion to move the ordinance.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Mr. Solicitor?
After consulting with both the town manager and the tax assessor, I believe the settlement is in the best interest of the town. It'll change the category from a tangible tax to a real estate tax, and the town will make out for additional tax revenue in the years to come. And I believe Sal can explain it in a little bit more detail if you need him to.
Sal?
Yes, originally, these were the new metal poles and foundations that were put in a number of years ago from Smithfield through Johnston, Cranston, West Warwick, and some other towns. When the project was completed, National Grid, on their accounting side, moved all of these to their real estate, not personal property. They wanted to see the same thing happen in the towns. Being that it's going to benefit the town by less depreciation, we'll be making more in tax dollars. They knew this. I had to mention it to them, and they agreed, and they don't see any problem. And we're making more money for ourselves as a town. I didn't see any problem with it either.
Any questions for Sal? Any public comment?
Maybe they can paint them and make them look better.
Yeah. They sound nice when the golf balls hit them.
Yeah.
Any other public comment? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Reports, town manager's report.
Yes, good evening. This is an update, but sort of a public service announcement, if you will. The Kent County Water Authority is planning a water line replacement along the Centerville Bridge. They'll be replacing the current cast iron water main with a new ductile iron. And this is in preparation for some additional work that RIDOT will be doing on the bridge in the spring of 2019. It's a very heavily traveled area. The work will be done from the evening from 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. The center lanes will remain open during the construction period. There'll be signage in the area for large trucks traffic to be diverted. And, certainly there'll be safety measures with private details during the construction period, which should be a few months. I think December is what the estimate was. Currently, the project has not been awarded by the Kent County Water Authority, but it is on an agenda, upcoming agenda. So this is something that will be happening in the near future, but plans have been made to minimize any local disruption through nighttime work. The other item I will mention that it's sort of a season or a year of transition for our staff. I'd like to welcome Chief Arone to his first meeting and welcome our interim police chief, Mark Knott, to his first meeting in that capacity. At our next meeting, we will have a resolution, hopefully confirming the appointment of a new public works director. Our ads will go out very shortly for our advertisement for our chief of police. And our local building official will be leaving in the middle of September, and we are in the recruitment process for a new building official. So those are the most recent, plus certainly we've had a new tax assessor, a new finance director, a new minimum housing officer. So certainly it is a period of a change for the town, and certainly for all those who have retired, mostly we wish them well, but we are endeavoring to fill the positions with the most highly qualified individuals that we can. And that's my report.
Any questions for the manager? Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Finance report.
Good evening, councilors. Before you, you have the preliminary year-end June 30th finance report. As you can see, we're ending in the black like we had hoped by about $400,000. This is all preliminary. We're starting the audit. We're going through everything with a fine-tooth comb. So that's it. The Civic Center also is going to end up with about a $30,000 surplus.
What was that?
The Civic Center is going to end up with about a $30,000 surplus. That was also in the reports. I did a couple of reports to kind of summarize the departments so you could see where the departments landed.
and the revenues kind of summarized it for you. So, do you have any questions?
Well, that's good news, I think, the surplus at
Yes.
the Civic Center for those that were concerned.
Yes, that is very good news.
Any questions for Kristen? Thank you, Kristen.
Ward reports?
5.
Just a couple updates. First of all, I want to thank DPW, the good work they did, doing some patchwork over on Exchange and at the top of Deerfield, dealing with some current concerns of some of the neighbors. Also the issue that was taking place on Route 3 in front of Adrenaline Rush Motors. I appreciate that. I did put out on my Facebook page a few weeks back, 2 weeks back, that one of the mega trucks coming through the neighborhood, going Nottingham area, coming up JC Service Road, turning on Medieval, down Drawbridge, up Little John. It appears there was some sort of hydraulic leak or something to that effect, so I've been going back and forth with Freddie Gill. Apparently, I guess they're getting together. Mega is going to hire an outside company who is going to power wash the roads and clean that up, because it really is a mess. So that's all I have.
Thank you. 4 is not here. 3.
Just a couple of things. The Shippey Ave Drainage Project has essentially started with some of the preliminary work, having started this past week. Dig Safe, some testing, and some ancillary work. The bigger portions of the project should be underway in about 2 weeks. So those residents are definitely excited for that project to get underway. If anybody is a resident of that area and they're not familiar with the project, they can go to my Facebook page. I've been updating it constantly. If they don't want to go there, they can email me. They can contact me via phone. So it's good to get that going. We have the playground on Factory Street. The design it's just been ordered this week. They're going to be coming in very shortly. We actually went with a black and orange design for the West Warwick theme. So that's going to be underway probably the end of September, first week of October. We're going to have a grand opening, so that's going to be pretty awesome. And on September 8th, and when we talked about this a couple of months back, we're going to have our first ever West Warwick Walk for Wellness 5K. It's going to be starting at the West Warwick Civic Center, coming down through the bike path, kind of wrap around Horgan School, and then come back. We're going to look to get some local businesses to support that. All the money, 100%, will benefit the Providence Center, which we work closely with. They help those affected with psychiatric illness, emotional problems, and addictions. So if you're a business and you want to get involved, you can speak with Lori Holden. I'm going to put some information on Facebook as well tomorrow. And if you're interested in walking as a family or individual, we're putting a recommended donation of $25 for an individual, $50 for a family. But if it's somebody that wants to walk, it's not necessary to walk. You can come out there and do that as well. And I'm going to have more details in the coming weeks. And that's all.
Thank you. 2. One thing, Freddie, just want to get with the Holy Ghost and go over Ventura Street. I guess there's some potholes there and some issues for Labor Day weekend. Also, I want to thank, Dominic's still here. Last year, as Dominic said earlier, there were no rides down at the feast. And that hurt the town. It hurt the feast in general. So Dominic and I were talking back and forth, and I want to thank Lori Holden for doing what she did and getting involved on a personal level and helping us get the rides back for the Holy Ghost. This Rockwell Amusements, has anybody seen the summer carnival here that she held? They have some very eccentric rides, much better rides, and in the past Rockwell had moved out and didn't want to come back to the feast. Lori worked very close with Rockwell from up here, and she got Rockwell to come back down to the Holy Ghost. So hopefully this year we'll see a lot of rides down there and a much bigger festival than last year. So it's been going on for 103 or 105 years here in the community, and it is an icon. So let's keep it going. That's all I have for 2. 1.
Concerns on Hilltop off Wakefield Street, the new condo project. I remember years ago when they got the okay to build them units, they had an entrance coming in from Hilltop, and they had an exit going out through Cranston. I spoke to George I didn't talk to Mark yet or any, I'd like to see what's going on. This was on the planning board, and it was, Al, maybe you can, they're trying to change it now where they're gonna make an exit coming out of Hilltop. That's 100 cars a day.
When the planning board approved, they approved it with an exit through the Cranston property. That exit, that agreement would have been recorded in Cranston, not here in West Warwick. Apparently now that association in Cranston is claiming they never agreed to the exit through their property. I know Mark has been working with the Cranston people and with their attorney. When he questioned me about it, from a legal perspective, Hilltop, in order to do it, has to have that exit. That's part of what they've agreed to with us. Whether they get the agreement from the other people or not, we as in a town can't do anything about that. But so we're sitting hoping that Cranston Association will work it out.
When all the constituents around that area and all the neighbors and abutting properties, when they came here to that hearing, they guaranteed that there would be none. That's the stipulation they had in that hearing. So if that doesn't happen, do we have anything to fall back on where we don't have to let them do that?
It would be my opinion, and this is one that I don't want to go on record saying it's going to happen that way, because I'd want to look at it more closely. But off the top of my head, if they don't follow the permission, the permit they got, they're stopped.
Okay.
I mean, we'll have, I'm not
Just
saying
keep
that-
me updated on that,
Will do.
because that was the stipulation when we were here, that there would be no exiting.
That is correct, and we were always under the impression, see, that was an agreement between them. and
Because
the
I was
people
on the
of
planning board then.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That was
You were.
before
You were.
'05.
You were.
And I remember making that
I will meet
stipulation.
with Mark tomorrow and get back to you on it.
All right, Al, thank you. The other thing, I have a constituent who is president of the Rotary Club in Warwick. And they raised quite a bit of money this year, and they want to give money to surrounding communities. And she offered the town of West Warwick a $500 donation, which I don't know who I'm gonna see yet, but I'd like to do some things down at the Pastore Field, Natick Field, Brookfield Platte area over there. I want to thank the Rotary Club for offering that money, and I want to thank Meredith Levesque for offering it to her district, the district that she lives in. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want to go back. I also want to thank Paula Iantelli. She also was very involved in getting those rides back to the Holy Ghost also. I forgot to mention that.
Are they going to be like the full rides, the kiddie ride? Do you know what kind of rides they're going to have?
A mix.
A mix with like
Ordinance number 2018-20, second reading, sponsored by the Town Council, an ordinance amending Appendix C, traffic ordinances of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick, stop sign for Schofield Street at Garnet Street, Carrie Ann Drive at Shannon Lane, and no parking sign for Pulaski at Patuxent Terrace.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Move in second. Discussion.
Second
Al?
reading.
I just wanted to add something that me and Councilman Licciardi did go back out to that area where the stop sign, with a no parking sign for Pulaski, to make sure that it wasn't going to be an issue where it moved over across the street. And we both agreed it's no more than 2.5 car lengths, just enough to not obscure the vision of people pulling out, but not enough where there's going to be a ton of cars causing an issue somewhere else. If it is a problem later on, we agreed, we'll take that problem as we come. It is a really difficult area, that spot it's at the corner of Patuxent Terrace and Pulaski Street across from the daycare, so.
So you are satisfied?
We are, we
with that?
absolutely, yeah, well, I was, but he wanted to make sure that the cars weren't gonna be, it was gonna be like 20, 5, 6 car lengths. It's about, 2.5 at the most.
Any other concerns on that?
Nope.
Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll take a roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-21, second reading, sponsored by Council Vice President D'Amico, an ordinance amending Chapter 4, Animals and Fowl, Article 2, Animal Control, Section 4-35 and 4-36 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Second reading, this is again an ordinance that I discussed with Councilman D'Amico. The state recently passed an act regarding the housing of dogs, and what I did was I repealed what we had and put it in the language of the state statute, so our ordinance now complies with the state statute.
Any questions for Al? Hearing none. Any public comment? Hearing none. Roll call. Jay?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-23, first reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, an ordinance amending Section 5.6 supplement use regulations of the zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Al?
When the discussion about recycling bins came up and we began looking into it, the first thing that came about was that they're being placed on a piece of property. In the zoning world, they're known as accessory uses. That led me to take a look at our accessory use ordinance. And when I did, I found out that our accessory use ordinance, for whatever reason, only handled residential districts. And, you know, we have to have regulations for all districts. So all that ordinance does is it sets the same regulations we've always had, but for all districts, not just residential. And this I was not aware of until I started looking at it for the recycling bins.
Any questions for Al? Any public comment? Hearing none. Roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angela?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-24, first reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, an ordinance amending Article 1, General Provisions, Section 3, definitions in Sections 5, use of regulations of the zoning code of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved seconded. Al?
Ordinance 2018-25, which will be coming before you right after this, is the one that establishes the recycling bins. The problem we had was I couldn't do that without changing, because our zoning ordinance made no provisions for recycling bins. So in order to go forward with your next step, I had to put them into the zoning ordinance. And what we did was, and I worked with the town planner on this, we defined a recycling bin, and the gentleman, Don, I can never think of his last name, worked with me on it. And then we put it in that recycling bins will be allowed only in B districts. This keeps them out of residential or out of the business park, so that we both, the town planner and I both felt that if you're going to have these recycling bins, the place you should have them is in a business area, not in a residential area. So this limits them to that.
Any questions for Al? Come on up to the mic, please.
Anna Spodnik, Carpenter Court. What is considered a B area? Because there's bins up at the Civic Center, and I would think that town property really shouldn't house any particular vendor of any kind. I think it's showing favoritism, perhaps.
A B area is what, when you go to the zoning maps, is described as Bs. What the school district is, I don't know.
What about town property? Shouldn't town property be excluded from this?
That's not a separate zone. There are residential zones, there's a business zone, a commercial zone, business park zone, and you look at the zoning map,
Mhm.
and it has this is business and this is residential. So if whatever is in that business district, I don't know, I would doubt that the high school is a business zone.
And who okays that?
Yeah,
Who
I mean,
okays
there are
that?
bins there, I don't understand why.
The next ordinance.
No.
Hold on. So, I'm gonna go back a little bit in history for the Civic Center, because they're also on Hay Street also for the animal shelter. So, if I'm not 100% sure, I'm probably 99% sure, the school department had them put up there and, as a dump off, and they get a revenue stream from that also.
Oh, so
Now,
the town's getting paid?
that's what I thought, that's why they were.
Well, why don't we find out?
It
We'd
would
have to
be
go to-
nice
we'd have to
for
go to
the
the-
townspeople to know this, because maybe the people from the town would
So-
utilize it more.
Well, that's what, and we brought this up at the last council meeting, that Don Mariani has also thought of, wants to sit down with us to go over possibly donating 12 of them, and him managing the 12 of them, and the town get the revenue, and he gets a fee. We haven't, that's still
Well, that's,
something.
how is that donating if the town has to pay him a fee?
So he would donate 12 bins. This is just in the works. We have not sat down with him yet.
Right.
We haven't talked. He said 12 bins will bring $361,000 of revenue.
I would love to see that in writing.
And correct, and that's why I said it's in early stages. We have not sat down. I'm gonna set up a workshop.
Mhm.
Once I find out when he'll be in town, probably early September or mid-September, to sit down and go over this and see what type of, fee that he would want to maintain that. Because if it's true, if we can get 360,000 and he wants 60,000 to maintain and pick them up, clean it, and then drop it off, I mean, that's something that's a win-win for the town and for his business.
I personally find it hard to believe, but if it was
I-
true, then I would have no issue with it.
Like I said, it's early stages. I'm going to sit down. We're going to have this conversation with him here as a workshop, and he's going to propose something to us.
Now, are we including other businesses that have these bins, or are we exclusively offering this to one individual, which to me is not good business practice?
We'd have to go out to bid, but he's coming up with the idea.
Okay. Can we have at the next town council meeting the information that provides, first of all, why they're on town property already, and if there are, because if you're telling me the school department has an arrangement with them, does the animal shelter have an arrangement with them, which would be the town?
At this point in time, there is no
Al,
arrangement anywhere.
her arrangement, what she's talking about arrangement is,
For
are
having
we
put
getting
their-
revenue for them being on town property?
And who okayed it?
And who
to be there?
okayed it?
That
And
is
who
town
okayed it?
property.
And if, I want to go back to the school department, it was about 8 years ago when that was okay.
But it is not the school department property.
Right,
It's
that
town
is,
property.
we've argued that property is not school department, so is it school department this week and not next week?
And we can look further into it. We can honestly look further into it.
Can it be available for the next town council meeting?
Mr. Manager, can you look into the bins on Factory Street and the bins on Hay Street, please? There's two on Hay Street, and there's two at, and they're
And
white
there's
and
one on
yellow.
Wakefield Hills also, Wakefield Hills.
The
School.
ones that are up at the school are pink and blue. At
Pink
least
and
that's
blue
what
are
I
not.
saw the other day. Well,
Not
it shouldn't
yellow.
really matter whose they are. It's how did they get there? Are they paying us anything for the time that they've been there? Or did they just plop them down there and they had no authorization to do so? That could put some questions in people's minds as to why we would deal with someone like that.
No, we'll get the answers for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as to this ordinance, it's just making an area available for them, which comes into the next ordinance.
Any questions for Al? Hearing none, roll call vote. Jack?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Ordinance number 2018-25, first reading, sponsored by Councilman Messier, an ordinance amending Chapter 10 Licenses and Business Regulations, Article 14 Recycling Containers of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of West Warwick.
Move the ordinance.
Second.
Move and second, Al.
As of today, the bins you see all over town are just placed there. There's no regulation. In many cases, there's no idea of who owns them. I believe Don said we have bins in this town owned by a company out in Minnesota. So that when the problems that Councilman Escher raised about the mess around the bins, there's no way of enforcing anything. So, working with Don and with Councilman Escher, the ordinance that I'm proposing tonight, it identifies the different terms defines them. In order to place a bin in a business district in this town, you will have to get a permit. I've prepared, if the council passes this, I've prepared an application form that would be filed with the clerk, and the clerk would then issue a permit. That permit would be placed on the bin itself, so that anybody that sees a bin without a permit on it, there's provision in here for what can happen.
Can I ask you, I forgot to ask you this earlier, what about, how does that affect the bins that are out there now? Do they have to get a permit at this point now?
Yeah, it comes, yeah.
Okay.
So, Al, let me ask you another question on that bin. So, for instance, Mr. Mariani was here and he said bins get damaged all the time. If this is a sticky permit, sticker, if they gotta swap out a bin, how do they get a permit?
To come back and
They
get
just ask for a new.
a new sticker to put on it. Their bin has been permitted. When I say permitted, I mean technically.
Yeah, they wouldn't get a new permit, just a new
No,
sticker if they've already
just-
been allowed. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's on the location. No recycling permit will be placed on the property of an abandoned building. If it's vacant, we're not gonna let you put it there, because if it's vacant, we later on, we get into some responsibility of the owner. If it's a vacant piece of property, we got problems
Is there
already.
something in there where if it becomes vacant, the permit is null and void? Because I know we've had the
No.
situation, because we've had the situation on 117 where it wasn't an issue as much until.
It would come up when they come to renew it on September 1st.
Okay.
The building, if the building official sees a permit that hasn't been permitted, he can notify them that you gotta get that, either you gotta get it permitted, or, when I say permitted, I'm using it in the, not just allowed, I'm using it in get a permit. It's either gotta be permitted, or it's gonna be removed. And we go through the process, and if it doesn't get removed, the town can remove it, and the property owner and the owner of the bin are responsible for all of our costs for removal and disposal, and we can sell the bin if we have to, if they don't do anything. If that bin is just left in abandoned. It spells
So
out,
theoretically, if one of these companies, which I know he talked about, one that went out of business, if they leave it there, don't pick it up, and we find another company that's willing to just take it, it doesn't cost us anything, we're allowed to do that?
yes,
Okay.
yes. The next section spells out what information we want on the application. That's going to be information regarding the person placing the bin, the property owner, and if there is somebody responsible for the bin. It defines what we're going to need in the permit. Then it goes on, and it's the maintenance of the bin. And by way of oversimplification, the issues that you raised, Councilman, where there's the mess. You get a notice, we go through the notice process. First time, it's $25. After all of the notice, it's $25 a day. Second notice, it's $50 a day. Third notice, you're out of here. And upon failure, after that, on that third notice, within 72 hours, the fine's $100 a day. And I know Councilman Padula had a problem with this, but the only way we can enforce this is the owner has to take responsibility. Because to just say that if it's not enforced, and the cost are on the person who put it there.
Yeah. It's difficult
we
to
got-
track them down if you don't know
track
what.
them. And the guys in Minnesota, John Brunero, even John Brunero can't collect that money. So it's the owner and the operator. That's why in the application, I've got all the information from all the parties.
What was the price we set for the permit?
I didn't put that in because I couldn't do a resolution until you approve this.
Gotcha.
I was just suggesting I believe, I don't have only, I think I said $300 a year, and you would apply, and it would be 1 month until September, a monthly till September 1st. And again, from an owner's perspective, all of this was submitted to one of the major, I'll say bin operators in the town. So I know the town, one of the things that you said to me, you wanted to make sure it was business friendly and that we were not here to drive the bins out of town, just to make them responsible. And Don Marinari had no problems with any of this.
Hannah?
With these bins being within West Warwick, are they considered a business where they should be having a business license just like anybody else in West Warwick?
It's a good question.
No,
Why?
because they're just there, and there will be a taxable, there'll be a taxable personal property tax on it.
But they're a business.
But-
They're making profit. They are not a charity. They actually try to make people believe
Well,
that they are a charity and they're not.
Would they have to be a West, that's the question. Are they a West Warwick-based business? If they're a West Warwick-based business, then yes, they would have to get a West Warwick license.
But they're gonna pay a fin for the bin, so it's.
But for example, if there was a landscaper that was based out of Warwick that did work in West Warwick, they wouldn't need a West Warwick business
Now,
license.
that I
correct?
would understand, because they do have, somewhere they have a physical existence. But if they were to have a business requirement to register, aside from a permit on a bin, now you have a concrete place to contact for what's going on with any particular bins.
That will be,
Sal
that's
can
all in the,
Sal?
in the application form, we know how to contact them.
No, They wouldn't be required a business license because they might not be located in town. We have vendors, leasing companies. They lease copy machines, they lease backhoes. We don't require them to have a business license, even though that piece of equipment may be
And
in
even,
West
and even,
Warwick.
and even food trucks. Now, I think, Al, we talked about the last meeting, the food trucks no longer need to get business licenses in any individual community because the state of Rhode Island set it as one throughout the whole state, so there's precedence for it.
I think in answer to Anna's question, the application, the name, address, telephone number of the operator, the federal ID number, the state of insurance, the contact person's name, address, telephone number. Same for the owner, so that
Okay.
we're keeping track of where they are.
And lastly, this is my only concern when it comes to us being business friendly. If, let's say, Rock's Market decides they want to have one of these bins on their property, do we as a town have the right to tell them what they can or cannot have on there or what should be removed? Because you could say the same thing about someone having their dumpster overflowing, or is the town going to go in and take their dumpster away because it overflowed? Not likely.
The difference is that recycling bin is defined, and it's also going to be categorized as an accessory use, which the town controls.
Okay, good for you. Thank you.
Any other questions? Jerry?
Jerry Late, 172 Prospect Hill Ave. Just some wording on it. I know we keep saying one of them says recycling bins, the other one actually says recycling containers. That could be confusing to some folks. Some people might take it as they might not be able to put their own
Thank you.
recycling bin on the sidewalk.
Thank you.
So I went in new terminology. Is there they have recycling containers,
I'll check,
recycling
I'll
bins?
change.
But something that'd be more specific to being that type of item, because somebody might think, well, I can't put my recycling bin on the sidewalk anymore. All right, thank you,
I
John.
will ask the council to move to amend it with all of my typographical errors corrected.
Yeah, this is the
First
first
reading.
Do I have a motion to?
I'll make a motion to amend the ordinance by the typographical errors.
Second.
Let's just change it from bins to containers.
Now I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
I'm sorry, containers to bins.
Containers to bins.
I'll move the ordinance.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Jay?
Yes.
Angelo?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Al.
Removal of barriers on East Avenue Bridge.
I've been getting a lot of complaints. If you go by the East Avenue Bridge off River Street to go to the malls, you're gonna see all these barriers. This bridge is brand new. I asked the manager to reach out to DOT. I don't know what, did you get an answer why they have the barriers on that bridge?
On East Street?
East Avenue.
East
yeah.
Avenue, no. No, not on that one. I'm assuming it's the same reason for Providence Street.
Well, that's a brand-new bridge. I mean, it cost over $6 million to put that bridge up.
What was the reason on Providence Street?
Well, I got that on the next one. You want to just combine them together?
Well, you can,
Providence Street is, Ernie, read what he wrote.
Right. Contacted DOT, and the reason for the barriers is that to prevent errant vehicles from climbing the sidewalks portions of the bridge. The sidewalks are supported by fascia beams, which are currently may be compromised if a truck were to mount the sidewalk. So according to DOT, those barriers, if hit by a truck a certain way, certainly would cause an accident, would cause potentially the truck to go over the barriers. So therefore, they have put these, the barriers along the street by the sidewalk to another layer of protection, so that if that were to occur, the barriers would be a first line of preventing a potential serious accident. The second question was, well, when would this construction be? And according to the information, it would be in the 2017-2025 transportation plan, which is scheduled for 2025. So these barriers would be.
So you know it's never going to happen. It's a joke. It's really a joke, and it's an eyesore, and it compromises the people walking on that. And then when the people litter, it gets caught in between them barriers and on the other side of it, and you can't clean it up. So I want to either, if we got to go to Channel 10 and 12 News with this or whatever.
still outside.
Well, too bad they're still not here. We'll give them some publicity. But this is ridiculous, and especially the bridge on East Ave. That's a brand new bridge. So they should immediately call Manafort that put up that bridge and make him fix it once and for all, not 2025. And I don't know how we let and what'd you say, Ernie? They said if they don't put barriers, they have to put a weight limit?
Right, and I would say that, my conversations were on the Providence Street Bridge. I did not contact them on East Avenue. That's my error. The Providence Street Bridge, if the barriers were removed, and this is the notation I have, please note by federal regulations, if the barriers are removed, the bridge will require weight limit restrictions due to the mountable sidewalk being less than 6 inches above the pavement, 6 feet above the pavement.
Well,
So-
then let them put the signage. And then we could even collect tickets if they go over it. So there's some of our money. Now, do we have to meet with them? Do we have to, what's our next step?
Well, if adopted, the resolutions would go to the Rhode Island Department of Transportation, I'm assuming the director's office. They would review them, and I would assume they would get back with the town as to whether or not they would agree to remove them or not. So the next step would be these resolutions would go to DOT, the director's office, and then they would issue a response to us.
Well, we're gonna send a resolution.
Right.
Is there a resolution attached to this?
Ernie, did you, no, there's nothing attached to it. No, yes, there
Wait,
is.
yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah,
resolution.
there is resolutions on it, Ernie.
I apologize, this thing just went totally down.
Took a minute for it to come up.
The question I have, and again, we're on East Ave Bridge, so I'll wait until we get on the Providence Street Bridge. I just wanted to hear why the barriers, because you said the barriers on Providence Street, and you imagine it's the same reason why. And I agree with Councilman Padula. I know
I'll clarify that.
Ward 1 in West Warwick, that's a main throughway, and thousands of cars come through there on a daily basis.
16,600 cars come through East Avenue with that.
So, with that being said, I mean, if the sidewalks were not constructed properly, and again, we gotta confirm that, I mean, that's definitely something on the state that needs to pay a little more attention to get that resolved, because 2025 to fix sidewalks is just outrageous.
Well, I will contact DOT tomorrow regarding the East Avenue Bridge and find out why they're there.
All right, this is
Can we
again,
send the
a resolution, this is a resolution to remove barriers on East Avenue Bridge. I also want to confirm if there's any safety issues, if they remove those barriers, meaning, and I still don't understand this, I'm not an engineer, but we're putting weight of barriers on there, and if we take the barriers off, now we have to have a weight limit. So I'm just trying to figure it out there.
Wouldn't it lower the weight limit?
Again,
Oh, no,
but no, what I'm saying is it makes a little bit of no sense to me, because if we take the
The way they
barriers off,
explain it.
it doesn't matter, if you keep the barriers on, it doesn't matter what size truck drives over that, but if you take the barriers off, we
Yeah.
gotta reduce
The
the
way
weight.
they say it distributes the weight evenly. So how they figure that, I guess you gotta be an engineer to understand
Yeah,
it.
that's beyond my pay grade.
They go to school to be
Oh, they would-
nincompoops.
Sir?
They're plastic barriers, how much you gonna weigh? They fill with
They're not
sand?
plastic, they're all full of cement, they're plastic coated.
Plastic coated, yes.
And you know what that cost them to keep it there? They rent them. They rent them. General fund.
Richard Holt, Pike Street. Mr. President, can you just make sure the Main Street Bridge is not going to have the same issue? While it's not completed already, can you make sure them sidewalks are high enough, please?
I'm just hoping it's gonna be done.
You and I both.
Ernie, can we also make sure that the Main Street Bridge is not gonna have the same issue? Because they did have those barriers on prior to construction there. So I don't wanna see them finish that bridge and then put those barriers right back up.
The same guy that makes the recycling bins, he makes those plastic.
So, with that being said, this is removal barriers, East Avenue Bridge. This is a resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Removal of barriers on the Providence Street Bridge.
Again, we just explained what that is, so we just need a motion to, I'll make a motion to send a resolution for that bridge also.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Appointments. Appointment for the West Warwick Zoning Board of Review. Resolved that the town council hereby appoints the following individual to serve as a member of the West Warwick Zoning Board of Review for the town of West Warwick with a term to expire July 2023.
I'll move the resolution for discussion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. We do have two applicants, Justin Kutu and Richard Banks. They both serve on there now. Justin served a little longer than Mr. Banks, so it's up to you guys what you want to do. Anybody have a choice?
Move the name of Richard Banks.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any other questions? Any public comment? Again, I know Justin spent more time on this, so I normally go by time and position, but
Well, here's what I would say. Obviously, we know there's another position opening up with the loss of Bob Messier. But Richard was the first to submit a request. He came before the council. He got the recommendation of the zoning solicitor, DiFiore. And when last meeting he thought we were going to pick someone, he was sitting in the audience. And of course, we know there was an issue there. So at this time, I would support Richard Banks.
I mean, the two great choices.
I think it's just a matter of, right now we have to select one over the other, and we know there's going to be another open position very shortly.
As Councilman D'Amico said, when Richard Banks contacted me, I voiced my support. As the councilor said, I've worked with both gentlemen. Either choice the council makes. You got, since 2004, I think this is the first time that you've had two such qualified people to move up from the alternate. The only thing I feel strongly about is I'm happy to see that the council is moving from the alternate up onto the board. In the past, they've tended to go outside
and I'm thrilled that the council is sticking to either one of
We
those two
stopped that a
members.
long time ago, Al.
No, not too long.
It wasn't fair.
It wasn't too long ago, and I'm thrilled about that, and I'll be thrilled working with either one of them.
First and second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Discussion action, Class P liquor license.
I put this, Al asked me to put this on the agenda because of last meeting about Class P liquor license. I do not want to get into a giant debate, so Al, if you can at least clarify why you want it on the agenda so we can discuss it.
Well, there's been so much discussion about whether or not there is a Class P liquor license. The general laws of the state of Rhode Island, Section 3-7-14.2, Class P liquor licenses. Section A caterer licensed by the Department of Health and the Division of Taxation shall be eligible to apply for a Class P liquor license, Class P license from the Department of Business Regulation. The Department of Business Regulation is authorized to issue all caterers licenses. The license will be valid throughout the state as a state license, and no further license will be required or tax imposed by any city or town upon the alcoholic beverage privilege. Each caterer to which the license is insured shall pay to the Department of Business Regulation an annual fee of $500 for the license and $1 for each duplicate of the license, which fees are paid to the state treasury. The department is authorized to promulgate rules and regulations for implementation of this license. In promulgating said rules, the department shall include, but is not limited to, the following standards. That it lists 8 standards that they got to check the age of valid identification. It then goes into state that the bartenders have to be certified and that all of their license has to be purchased from Class A liquor dealers. But the fact of the matter is that there is a state P license, that when that state P license comes into a town or city, the town or city has no control over it. And just a question as to whether or not that license did exist, I just wanted to clarify that it does exist in the state statutes.
Thank you. Tom?
Tom Oates, Colonial Way. Thank you, Al. This information that you supplied here is the exact papers that I handed to you in February. Before you had an opportunity to look at them, they were snatched from your hands by your solicitor and said this means nothing. If you have a Class P license, you can supersede any state law, ordinance, or contract, state or municipal. Those were the advice of the solicitor that day, meaning if you hold a Class P license, his words were, if you hold a Class P license, you do not have to follow any law or ordinance or contract, which in the contract at the time forbade alcohol. This license, the Class P license, which is given only to caterers, does not have the right to supersede any contract anywhere in this. So I do not understand why this is brought up tonight. This is the papers that I gave to you to prove that you were misled by your solicitor and prompted to approve an event that was against law and against your own contract with the person. Then all of a sudden, we had to change the contract. I don't understand that. There was no need to change any contract, which took, I don't have my notes, I'm sorry, it was 132 business days, I believe, in total, from the time we said we were working on the contract till the time they were produced at the last meeting. What did that cost us and why? Because a Class P liquor license, according to the solicitor, supersedes law and contract. So I do not see why this is on the agenda, and this is the same exact papers that I handed to you back in February.
Tom, I just explained why it was on the agenda. Al asked me to put it on so he can give an explanation once again because of the comments that were stated last meeting. He just said that. It's the only reason I allowed it on the agenda.
Okay,
Personally,
but-
that's why I said I wasn't going to get into a giant debate about it tonight because we've talked about
So
this
wait-
now for the last 6 months.
Correct, and we have, and where are we? Can we at least acknowledge the fact that you were misinformed by your solicitor stating that this license supersedes law and any contract that makes them null? And if you don't approve the project, if I remember the wording, we can go back to the tape. If you don't approve the program that was scheduled for alcohol and tobacco products.
State supersedes town.
Correct.
That's what I was told.
Right. But it's you can't supersede a law. It's a license. He has the license. The town cannot
Andrew, you all right?
the town cannot require him to have another license above and beyond that. But he cannot violate law or a contract. It clearly stated in the contract. And Mr. Williamson stated that if you do not approve it, you'll be liable to a lawsuit like Mr. Malanzi had one, I don't know, a couple of $100,000 or what it was, and that was misinformed as well. Mr. Malanzi did not win a lawsuit. He won a preliminary injunction. That stopped Steve Perry, Public Safety Commissioner from Providence, to send his boys out stopping them any further. So they had to lay off. That's all that was a preliminary injunction, not a win of a case. So still we are here, and I still haven't got an answer as to where does it say in this license information from the State Board of Business Regulation that the holder of a Class P catering license is able to supersede law or contract. I've asked for that.
But, Mr. Oates, we as a council decided that we broke the contract by saying we're allowing the Class P liquor license to go up there.
So you
We voted for that.
Yeah, but what?
No, you
what-
violated
Only
the
one person
contract
voted-
because he misinformed you. He lied to you. I didn't want to use the
Mr.
word
Oates,
lied, but he
Mr.
lied to you.
Oates, I think the event would have still went on up there. There was only one councilman who was against the sale of alcohol.
The whole bunch of you that you voted on it,
When I was told,
being advised by your solicitor that if you didn't, you were going to get sued. That's exactly what he told you. So you all knuckled under and you approved it. I have no problem having that
I
event. It was a
wasn't-
great event.
I tell you right now, Mr. Oates, I don't know anybody else's opinion, but I was still going in favor of it.
I wouldn't have. If I knew we weren't getting sued, I would have voted against it.
You were misinformed.
Okay.
Again.
Thank you.
And all these months, I've just been waiting for you to say, mea culpa, my fault, I was wrong, I misinformed the
Mr.
council.
Oates, you just
But
said
I
we're
didn't.
wrong.
Beg your pardon?
You just said we're wrong.
I
Okay,
did. I
and
want to
we're
hear you
misinformed.
people say it. I want to hear your solicitor say it, but I'll never hear it.
Thank you, Mr.
And that night, I was told, if you want to play in my league, I suggest you read yourself a law book or stick to grinding keys, if I remember, as I walked away. That was a beautiful thing.
David, if I might, just to clarify the record, the reason I requested that be put on the agenda tonight was last week, or last month, Mr. Rhodes made the statement, there is no Class P license in the statute. And I just wanted to read into the record that there is in fact.
That's the end of this conversation.
You misunderstood because I handed the papers
Mr.
that
Oates,
you provided to.
come up to the microphone, please.
Again, I'm sorry if you misunderstood me or if I misspoke to you. I know there's a Class P license. It's a license issued to caterers only.
And again,
And I handed them the same papers that you dug up. I handed the same thing to the councilman, to the town council president. It was snatched from his fingers by the solicitor, and he said, this doesn't mean anything, and across the table. And that's how it started. That's when he told me if I want to play in his league, I should read a law book. And as I walked away, he said, I should have stuck to grinding keys.
Mr. Oates, thank you.
Thank you.
Road bond money, sponsored by Councilman Padula.
Okay, Kristen, you sent me, a thing on the road bond money. I was told I had 100,000, and you gave me a figure, I don't have it in front of me, 30-something thousand. Some roads that were billed to my ward were not in my ward. Clyde Street, number 1, nothing that was paved on Clyde Street was in Ward 1.
Yes, it
What,
was. The whole right side of Clyde Street, the Eric Deans, that whole side is all yours.
on the left?
Right hands, if you're coming from around the bend where Industrial Lane is, that's all yours on the right-hand side. That's all your constituents.
They changed that.
No, they didn't. It's still there.
But there was,
I've been walking it all week, I know.
there was other ones that were billed, and one that was supposed to get done was Bowen Court. Who's here, Freddie? Bowen
Freddie,
Court,
come on up.
before Dave left, they couldn't get the big equipment in there, and he had Cardi come in, or Cardi give a bill. It was like $7,000 or $8,000 to do it with a smaller machine. If they couldn't do it, we were gonna get a local guy as long as he could match the bid. So that went by the wayside. I wanna bring that back up again. Bowen. And, I want to spend the rest of my ROBA, but that is my bottom line. That's what I have, definitely. It's my own fault because I forgot the sheet with all the roads on. I had a couple of questions on other things. You got it? Thank you. There was a couple over here that the water company did. Brookfield Drive.
The only thing I left on there was what came out of the bond.
But the water company, let me see, which ones were they that the water company did? I had them marked on my own sheet. That's all right, I'll just, I'm not gonna tie it up, it's been a long night anyway, but I got my sheet where I think the water company did, and I'll call you and I'll have to put it on the next agenda.
Okay.
All right, but that's all I had on that, thank you.
Tobacco license fee sponsored by Councilman Padula.
Yes, I got some calls from some businesses. One, Midville Country Club. I didn't know it was a $300 tobacco fee to sell tobacco. He explained to me that he sells $250, $200 worth of cigars to golfers. He gives them as cost. So he's gonna pay a $300 fee to give $200, $250 worth of cigars to his customers. I think the fee is too high. I mean, I understood this where they hide the tobacco, keep it behind the counters, away from the kids, where they mix it up with the candy. All that I agree with. But the fee, I think that we should look at that fee like we did with the auction house that the gentleman left that runs the Phoenix auctions on every week, where we were charging him so much a week. Now, there's one way, I don't know, do you have anything to say about the fee?
No, I supported the fee and.
What did we raise it? What was it prior?
100 to 300.
It varied? No, it went from 100 to 300 now.
It went from 100 to 300, and since the clerk's office requested that all licenses expire on the same day, where they had been annual, we moved it to September 1st, and so that it would be 1/12 of, if you started on an odd month.
Well, I mean,
What would the issue be in reducing it somewhat? Is
Yeah,
there an issue
I
with
mean,
that, or?
guys that sell the tobacco.
$200?
Well, the question I have is, you know, we talked about that. You said he sold $250 worth of cigars. if he was paying $100 for the license and he was only selling $200, he obviously wasn't making money in it to make money anyway. This was.
But you don't want to lose money.
This was for the bigger stores like 6-Eleven. CVS doesn't sell them anymore. SAD came in with a list of retailers. Most of them are big retailers, smoke shops, or whatever it may be. And at that point, you know, between the safety awareness, health awareness, and everything else, we
I
discussed
understood
moving
the big
fees up.
stores. I didn't have a problem with the big stores because they move.
Problem
I mean, maybe we can look at
I don't think you can.
certain individuals, but I don't know how you can do that.
No,
I don't think you can.
I don't know if
I don't think you can
$100
distinguish.
is gonna make that much difference and deter anyone.
How many tobacco
How
stores
are
are there in town
people,
that are paying?
actually, Angelo, people were actually, who don't even sell tobacco, still renew their license just to have it, in case they sell their business or whatever. Paula brought it to my attention that people are still coming in who don't even have tobacco, that don't sell tobacco, just want to renew their license.
But that's foolish because they could get another license with no problem at all.
Again, I don't know why they do it, I'm just saying they do it. And I think Zoe's here from SAD. Zoe, if you want to come on up, and you can give the explanation also, because you were here that night.
Okay. Hi, I'm Zoe Morrow. And to answer your question, there's 31 stores in West Warwick that sell tobacco.
Stores.
Like,
Did you take into account that some of them were golf clubs, golf organizations, little mom and pop shops that
yeah,
don't sell that much?
I think so.
Well, I don't think it's fair to the business. I mean, they have enough on their plate, and I mean, there's a way out of it right off the bat. Do you remember when they went to build the clubhouse, the motorcycle club in Arctic? Nobody, the council wouldn't issue them a license, so they went to an attorney. I think the attorney was Paul DeMayo. And what they did, they didn't charge to sell alcohol. They had a full bar. It was free. It was by donations. So if Midville wants to sell cigars, he don't have to sell them, just put free donation for each cigar. He don't need a tobacco license. Right or wrong?
I would, just speak into the microphone, please.
I would think that if Paul DeMayo did it, they probably.
Something, there was
There was something there, but
I didn't get into it, but I remember it happening.
I would suggest to the council, and I'm only throwing this number out because I'm terrible with math, but if you're gonna do something, $120 a year.
I mean, it seems to me
That's
that
$10 a month.
we changed the ordinance to, you know, move this product back, to keep it away from kids, so that it wasn't glorified on the front
price?
counter. So I don't understand how the,
Yeah, how the fee
the
went
fee.
up. I don't remember.
Well, I mean, we can change the fee.
we changed the fee because the money that we take from the fees goes to compliance checks, which myself and many other kids around even the state do. We go to all the stores that sell tobacco in the state, and we see if we can buy it as minors with police officers in the car with us. And being able to fund that helps us find out which stores minors can get tobacco from. So the money coming from this ordinance would help us.
So this
be able to do that.
place, I'm not familiar with this. I mean, this place, there's not kids walking around. There's not. I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. So I mean, we made the exception for that Phoenix. We can do that. We can make an exception for the fee, or we can't change the fee because he just
can
said.
change the fee.
But you have to lower the fee for everybody, though.
Not everybody, yeah.
Okay.
And I can let you know, I did compliance
So
check.
let me ask you a question, though. When they do the undercover stings and stuff, isn't each city and town responsible for paying the fee through the police department? Is that right? Like, in other words, does the money go to the state to pay for that, or
No.
how does that work?
So that, and that's, Major Knock, are you still here? Are you familiar with this? I know you have a specific officer assigned to this.
Because if the sting is done in a certain city or town, doesn't the student or the kid who's doing it have to fill out a W-2 for that particular city
They
and
do.
town and go through the whole process of being paid by them?
We do get grants through the state. I'm not sure if the original funder is the federal government, but we do get grants from the state for alcohol and tobacco compliance
To
checks.
set up these kind of things.
And we get a list from the state that they pick random businesses each year, 12 to 15, for us to check. Alcohol compliance is definitely that way. I haven't seen a tobacco compliance if it's generated the same way. But we do get reimbursed for those funding on an annual basis.
Does it have to be separate, I mean, does it have to be one blanket, or can it be different kinds of business? Can it be a different fee depending on the kind of business, or is it the tobacco ordinance has to be a blanket from any business that sells tobacco?
It's a tobacco license.
So there's no variation of whether it's a store or a club.
Mr. Gadget?
Is it possible to set the license fee on a scale by the amount of business that one does, with the maximum being the 300, and if someone does from 500 to 1,000?
But how would we, I understand that, but how would we regulate, how would we know what they're making?
Well, they're going, when they buy tobacco products, that's all regulated. They have sheets from purchasing it from licensed dealers. It's just like alcohol. Every bottle of alcohol I bought when I managed a bar had to come from a licensed distributor.
Yeah, you had the manifest.
And everything was there to be reviewed by the taxation department. So this same thing is done with cigarettes, cigars, and eventually vaping pens.
I'd be very concerned about.
I think it'd be easier just to drop the fee.
I mean, they,
You know, I think that to try and get into a.
31, you're talking.
Some kind of a tier, 31.
$6,000 less.
Places, what was it,
town.
two with a 100, 400, I think it's just, I don't know how it'd be possible.
Well-
And I don't know whether it would be legal to do it or not. Saying you can sell it at one price because you make more money than he does, I don't know, I just.
I'm saying it's something that, can we look at? I'm not asking for a decision tonight. If you have a club where they're only selling $300 a year, now you deprive that business of any business because you're charging him so much money to have a license.
I just want to point out something. Is Paula here? She just sent me a message. Everyone renewed except 2 businesses out of all the businesses in town, and they don't carry, and one says they no longer carry tobacco, so they didn't renew, which was down in Crompton, so, and it wasn't on their list. So, again, you had 31, out of 31 businesses, and the one that, out of, I'm gonna say 31 businesses, one of them wasn't on that list, they didn't renew their license. So 30 to 31, totally renewed, and there's no issue.
Well,
Now,
there's an issue.
Well, it's kind of like renewing your license or something. You have to pay.
You do
The
have to,
state's telling
but
you to
again,
pay.
like I said, it's up to you, but I think it's crazy.
My only suggestion is if you reduce it, to make it something divisible by 12.
Ken?
Kent Reynolds, 48 East Greenwich Ave. You guys are wasting a tremendous amount of time. You've gone so far off track. You're all playing with your phones. It's real simple. Give the cigars away, raise your price.
I'm getting a text
I
message.
get it, but you,
Information, Ken.
am I wrong? You guys are taking forever. Look, you got a business who has a problem. He makes an economic decision like we all do. Raise your price or give the damn things away. But let's move on. You guys are over here questioning grants and all this other stuff about, let's take care of the business that's on the agenda.
That is on the agenda.
I get it,
And I
but
think
but
it might
stick
not
to
be important
tact.
to you, but it's important to Midville Country Club.
Okay,
So being there, Councilman, I am here representing him and fighting for him like I do for all my constituents. And I'm not gonna be rushed. I think it's crazy, $300 for a small businessman, plus his tangibles, plus his fees, plus his taxes, plus his license fees, his alcohol fees. Everything's got a fee. When does it stop?
So all he has to do is stop selling
to also
cigars.
have to consider and to balance. Like,
Why should
the
he-
compliance,
why should
like
he
these-
deny his
this
clients
program we wanted to
a cigar?
continue,
Wait, guys, one at a
so
time.
you balance it.
Okay, so he loses money on that. He makes an economic decision. But you guys you're into the minutia over here with this stuff.
it's not
And if the reality is a business now you're setting a precedent that a business in West Warwick, if they feel they don't make enough, where they can prove on paper that they're losing money.
Listen, we
Well,
raised
I'm
their
talking.
Talk.
I'm going to. So now you're going to set a precedence that any permit is now negotiable based on how much profit I make?
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying, I'm fine with the fee where it is. I supported it in the beginning.
Make a
and I'm gonna
business
support
decision
it
to
in the
move
end.
on.
I'm not, because you went from 120 to 300,
I did.
which is outrageous.
You did.
We did, exactly.
So every business in town made that adjustment. That's his job, make the adjustment.
Except
You
for
guys need
his.
to move on. You're taking way too much time on
Well,
this
I'm
stuff.
voting to drop the fee to $120. I make a motion.
It would have to be in a resolution form, Angelo.
Oh, we'd have to put it on the next agenda?
That's if the council wants it on the next agenda.
Take a poll.
I personally think that number's too low. I would consider reducing it $50 to $100, but not dropping it to 120.
So you're gonna waste time over $50. I mean, Jay?
Would they be legally able to do the option to give it to, for free? Would that be something they would legally able to do?
I'd have to look it up, but I think they might be.
Well, why don't, can you look that up, and then if that doesn't work, and Angelo,
I couldn't hear you. Could you say that again?
I honestly don't know. I mean, I don't know how they would do it. It depends on what the scenario is. To just say, look it up. If they just want to give them away, that's one thing. But then if you say there's a donation, I don't know. I mean,
I'd rather look into it further before I make a decision on this, and then look into it before the next council meeting. If Angelo wants to put it on the agenda, then we'll take it from there at that point.
Put it back on the agenda.
I think to try and get into something, I wouldn't even begin, Councilman, to know how to draft an ordinance that says, if you give them away and charge it.
No, I don't want you to draft an ordinance. I just want you to look into see if that's something that he would be.
I'll look into
No,
it.
don't, Al, just take a look and see if individuals can take donations for their cigars, for that situation.
That way the business owner's not getting into trouble.
What we'll put
and it's-
on the agenda, Mary Ann, is discussion action and a resolution to drop the fee.
Well, if you're going to do a resolution, give me guidance as to what numbers you want in your resolution.
I would say bring it back to where it was, 120.
It was 100. I'm suggesting 120 because I can't divide by 12.
Pack of cigarettes is more than a bottle of vodka these days.
I mean, if 120, 150, whatever the council feels.
How much does a cigar cost?
Less than 300.
It's $25 a month. That's what we.
$25 a month for cigars, $25 a month for dumpster fees, $25 a month for litter fee.
Angelo, look
I
at
mean, keep
look
building
at
it up.
look
What
at
you people ought to do is open up businesses and find out the expense where
Angelo,
$25 a month means
I
a lot.
fully understand, but also a few years, 3 years ago, when we moved the sewer tax to $277 minimum, and then per usage on each, so a two-family house now gets 2 bills, where before they got 1 bill. But that was, everybody supported that, except for 2 of us. But again, that's $277 a year to that, and I don't care what anybody says, that's a tax. You know,
It was
we're
either
talking
that or
about
tax
cigarettes at
everyone.
$25 a month, that,
But
by the way,
everyone-
cause
everyone
major
would-
health issues. I think it's well worth $25 a month. That's just my opinion, but again, I'm one person.
So we're gonna raise the liquor fees too, because that's a
It's
health.
$8.
Actually, how much is the liquor license?
It's $8 a month.
500.
It's $25 a month.
If we
12
re-
times 25 is 300.
That it was $300 a year they paid.
$300 a year, so 12 times 25.
No, but we raised it. It was 100.
Like I just said, it's
Just put it on the
25.
agenda.
Put it on the agenda, we can discuss it next time. Thank you.
Discussion on resolution.
Group Home Tower Road, Tanglewood Plat, sponsored by Councilman Padula.
Yes.
Zoe, thank you for your time here.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Yes. I've been getting numerous calls. I spoke to George, Ernie, I spoke to you a couple of months ago on this, when you first came. There happens to be a group home on 17 Tanglewood, and constituents that I've never, ever got a complaint about their parking. Then, a matter of fact, there's a few here now from Tanglewood. I'll let you get up and speak. Lynn, you're here, and is Lori? But anyway, they're causing disruption in the neighborhood. I guess they got new help there, and they have no control over the residents in that home. They're parking all hours of the night in front of the residents' driveways, mailboxes during the day. Lynn, you want to come up and explain a little bit what you have? Lisa Brown, too. Lisa's having problems. They're all off.
Lynn Wilbur, 9 Tower Road. I live next door to the group home. They are adults with handicaps, but the folks that watch them tend to be young kids. And I believe that when they can't control these folks, they call a rescue. That was another issue. They're always at the residence. Fire trucks, ambulance, police, all show up. And Angelo, I think you had said you had kept track of the record.
I had the
as
record
far as-
from Chief McGarrett at the time said there was numerous calls, and the major can contest to it. And the old chief, Joe Barris, is still here, isn't he? Our retired chief? The old chief? Joe.
Parking is also an issue. The folks that work at the home tend to park in front of my house, which is 9, the house on the other side of the group home. Those folks didn't get their mail for 3 days. We didn't get mail for a day because they parked in front of our mailbox. My neighbor across the street, whose address is actually Musket, but the back of his house where his driveway is on Tower. Another resident, another worker at the group home parks there, so he's got a large truck, he backs out, he has a tough time. There's just been a lot of issues with the residents too. I've had a vehicle, they just wandered to our house and just got into our car and started rifling through our car. I mean, they're harmless, but I don't think they have the right supervision that they need to
And that's what,
maintain control.
That's why I put this on the agenda, to see, Ernie, who we have to contact in charge of that group home, so we could sit down and, you know, not ruining the quality of life on the neighbors. And I mean, they've been very patient with them. Like I said, that group home's been there for quite a while, and there wasn't problems there before. So when you and the rest of the residents, citizens there in that vicinity, started complaining, then I knew we had a problem, and that's when you told me that they switched.
Yeah, and the same person that was in charge even just a few years ago, I don't believe still is anymore. He actually got things done.
Right.
He was the go-to person if there was an issue, and he's no longer there, so.
And there always was too. There was a male supervisor there at one time, maybe 10 years ago or 8 years ago. And there was one issue with one neighbor, and I went to go speak to him, and he was very cooperative. He said, I'll make sure, and he said,
That might have been him.
I'll take care of it, and we never had a problem since. And then the past, I guess, 7 or 8 months, it's been chaos over there. So Ernie, can you check who the contact person is, and either we
Sure.
have a meeting with them and
Sure.
make sure so we can resolve this for these people?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Town Council Liaison to Senior Center, sponsored by Councilman Messier.
I'll make this one a quick one. Prior to my being on the council, Vice President Council, Ed Giroux was the liaison. So John D'Amico, as the vice president, took over that role, but due to his work schedule, the meetings takes place during the day, so.
Mornings.
No.
Unfortunately, my work schedule makes it difficult to attend morning meetings.
So Barbara Tabak asked me to take over as the liaison for the senior center on the council level. That's it.
Town Solicitor, sponsored by.
We gotta do a point. It doesn't make.
I'm sorry.
Just like we did.
But nobody has
Does
any
anybody else
objections
on the
though,
council have a
correct?
problem with that, because we did that with Jay Licciardi with the.
Yep.
Thank you.
Town solicitor, sponsored by Councilman Padula.
Yes, Dave, you addressed some of them, some of the comments that were made to people in the audience. I have a problem with the billing. When we signed a contract, it was supposed to be 30 days, and now I understand that still November of 17 has not been submitted or paid. December.
Can you come up to the mic? I'm sorry.
So how far behind is the billing?
We need December, which we were supposed to talk about, and we're going through the solicitor bill from January to June. Right now, we have it, we're just going through it. And we did receive June, but I need a cover letter just stating the amount. So we're
missing-
almost there.
Why are we missing December?
Because they haven't gotten it to the town yet.
Because why?
He hasn't gotten it
Because
to
they
the
haven't
town.
gotten it to the town yet.
So what we decided, 30 days if the billing didn't come, it was gonna be a change, that the bills would be null and void.
That's with a new contract, not the old contract.
What old contract?
The old contract that I have.
Can we get December squared away, please, as soon as possible? But we're up to date, up to June, without a cover letter.
Correct.
And
We've paid
I will
January through
say
May.
that I have seen emails going back and forth, and I know Ernie and Kristen go through each bill line by line, and they do question some items, and that's why it does take time to go back and forth. So, thank you for doing your due diligence, and let's make sure December gets in, please. Anything else, Angela?
No?
Claims, resolved.
Is there public comment for this?
Not really, but, thank you.
The town council hereby denies or approves the following claims against the town. You want me to read each one?
I'm sorry, I got distracted.
Claims?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Want to read the claims, please?
Erica Green, pothole, recommended to pay the claim.
How much is that one for?
300. Then there's the, at Highview, the electric wires that got ripped down by the DPW truck. Nicole Macaraco, $475. There's a police report involved. Let's see, after we did it. Also, James Grieve was affected by all the wires that came down. He's asking for $275. I believe that is it. And they've all been approved by DPW to pay. I'm requesting that you pay these.
What did the wires, what damage did the wires do?
The DPW truck, when we took back recycling, was going down for the first day on that Saturday, and there was low hanging wires, and it hit them and kept going and ripped all the wires out
This was a
down
bulk,
the street
bulk pickup?
on the car.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the cars and across. It did some damage, and so they came in and requested, and Fred Gill has requested that you approve them, all three.
Any other comment? Hearing none, all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Upcoming appointments, Sewer Use Tax Board of Review, alternate member with a term to expire 10/21. West Warwick Public Library Trustees, 1 with a term to expire 2/2021. Board of Tenant Affairs, 1 term to expire on 3/2020. Public, 1 to expire on 4/2020. Public, 1 to expire 4/2020. Clyde Towers, 1 to expire 4/2020. West Warwick Manor, 1 to expire 8/2020. West Warwick Manor. Zoning Board of Review, 1 term to expire 2023. I think that's what we took care of tonight. Is that correct? Article 3 Development Commission, one term to expire 10/1/18. Public comments. Comments will only be addressed to the town council. We'll take them under advisement. When addressing the town council, please state your name and address. Conduct yourself in an orderly and respectful fashion. The comments of citizens accessing this portion of our meeting are neither adopted nor endorsed by this body, but heard as requested.
I have a public comment. Janice Pacino, 25 Knight Street. And I have watched for the last few months the bridge. Not watched, but drove through, because I live in that area. And it's an ongoing project. And I'm glad that it's finally being done. But the traffic is being diverted to Maple Avenue and down on Fairview Avenue. Maple Avenue is a secondary road, and it has gotten horrendous to drive on. It's got a big dip in the road, it's got potholes in the road. You drive up to the end of Fairview Avenue, it's very dangerous because the traffic's coming down. I always try to go up Woodside Avenue because it gives you a better outlook onto Fairview Avenue. But the road is a mess. You come down on Fairview Avenue to the bridge, and when you get to the bottom of the bridge, there is a huge pothole there. I mean, the state is, I never see them working. I guess they're working under the bridge. But I'm sorry, I'm sick of the DOT. But I mean, they're diverting this traffic, and it's going on for months and months. Who's going to fix these roads? It's Maple Avenue, Fairview Avenue, East Avenue, going up to Parada.
So, well, before Dave Lombardi had left, and actually I just had a conversation with him previous a couple months back, we would have to put a claim in through the state and get them out here to, because due to the heavy traffic, that's some of the deterioration. Not going to blame all of Maple Avenue on that traffic. They had some issues to begin with. Fairview Avenue, we have brought up the pothole to Freddie. JP Millette actually is the one who brought that pothole up. So we'll get that resolved hopefully very soon. I know exactly which one you're talking about because I go the same exact way. I'm being told that the bridge could be done before Labor Day.
I hope.
And we're all hoping because we do have a parade going through there and it will kind of be tough to get floats and everything else around. They have been working. They do have contract rules that after a certain temperature, but they are there at 6 in the morning. And I will say that they're there. And Mario Faria, who's a personal friend of mine, he's basically the foreman. I know he just went off and got married, but he's I've always kept in contact with him. I see him here in Town Hall. I ask him, and they are striving to get that done as soon as possible.
Well, I do hope the town, does request to have those two roads fixed. Because it's going to be coming where they're going to shut down the Fairview Avenue Bridge, and we're going to be back in the same situation. I mean, I travel maybe 5 times a day, and I've got to go all the way around and come back. I mean, it's, I know.
Janice, I was here with the first meeting, and they wanted to shut down both bridges at the same time. There was no way that was going to happen.
Janice,
it would have been, huh?
But she's right. The state should be
No,
responsible for
and
Maple
that's-
Avenue
and that's-
because they're detouring trucks and everything up there.
And that's us.
Yes, I mean, I've seen big tractor trailers, and I understand there's a business on Maple Avenue that they have tractors, but I mean, huge tractor trailers are coming out on that little corner.
Nope, we have to put a request into the state, and we plan on doing so.
And you have 2 policemen sitting 24/7, one in this end, one in this end. They don't get out of the cars. You think, when it's the traffic is backed up. I know. Don't say a word. The thing is, you see them sitting there, and don't tell me we're not paying for them to sit there 24/7 because I know it's in the contract, and you don't think Cardi is going to give you the police for free.
Listen, I fully agree with you. Here's the thing. I've been involved with the meetings from day one. The original time frame for police detail was 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Cardi came in, they said they don't want to be paying for detail between 7 and 10, and we said, well, get the job done, and you won't be paying for detail. Then we went down from 7 to 7. I can tell you right now, you could probably take away the detail, but there's no incentive for Cardi to get it done once they're not paying for details. And you know,
That's-
we're using that as an incentive also.
Yeah, but that's in the bid.
But that's
It's-
fine,
it's in the
but when the
bid. No, it's not,
traffic.
Angelo.
No, the
they're
traffic
very
comes down from
conservative.
East Main Street, and it's at supper time, and the traffic is backed all the way up. You don't mean to tell me that cop can't get out of a car to try to get the traffic through the light, and there's traffic backed up all the way down to Lippert? I mean, come on, if they're sitting in the car on their cell phones or drinking a coffee, just get out at supper time and move the traffic through the light. That's all I'm asking. They're 24/7 there. I see them day in and day out.
7 to 7, not. I
Well, it
understand
was
that.
24/7,
It was never 24/7.
7 days a week.
7 days a
7
week.
days, all right,
7 to
7 days a week, 7 to
Correct.
7. But, I mean, get out of the car at supper time or early morning when the traffic is backed up and just bypass the light. That's all I'm
Janice,
asking. Is the chief here? Maybe the chief can answer that.
I could talk to the chief and Major Levine, who's in the traffic division, and we can discuss that.
Fine.
Thank
I
you.
mean, I'm hoping that bridge will get done.
Me too.
Well, you live in the same area I do, and
It's not just you. It's Subway, Diggy's, Messi's.
My best friend works. My best friend works at the Domino's. It's awful. Yeah, they have to go all the way around for every delivery.
My
yeah.
dog groomer, I went to her on Friday for my dog, and she's got the professional dog grooming. She's losing customers because they're coming from out of town that don't know enough to go down and around Fairview when they're going down Providence Street. These people don't want to do this.
We've heard it from the businesses, Representative Nunes.
What are we going to do for these
what's involved.
businesses that are losing money, losing customers?
That's why we're trying to get it open as fast as possible, because they are, you know, Diggy's Ice Cream, like I said, and Subway is $2,000 a week. And how does a small business like that survive? We're talking
know.
about $300 for cigarette fees, but we have businesses that are losing thousands of dollars a week.
I know.
And they are struggling.
Yeah, I know. I heard it.
hopefully
I
they
heard
survive
it
it.
Friday when I went to the groomer for my dog,
And this is the second time in 5 years for them. 'Cause
Yeah.
They did Main Street over
yeah.
with the sewer project.
The only good part about it is when I come out of Wesley Street, I don't have to look one way. I can just go down, so I don't have to worry about the traffic. And now that I got stop signs on Knight Street
Thank you,
in
Janice.
front of my house.
Thank you.
Good evening. What's the special phone number you have to call to get the tax collector to return your call so you can get a copy of your tax bill? Every time you call, you get the answering machine, and you leave your name, you leave your number, and you don't get anybody calling back.
Rose? Matthew, settle down back there.
Okay, first of all,
Just,
when did you try
Rose,
to call? When did
address.
when did you try to call?
I've tried calling for the last over a week
Okay.
because I didn't get a tax bill. I pay my taxes myself. Call the town tax assessor, call the collector's
Okay.
office, and and I
Yeah.
keep the answering machine,
Right.
and I leave my name, I leave my number, I tell you what I want. I don't get a call back.
In July, it's our first collection quarter. July's are very, very busy. And as everyone knows, we have 3 girls. We have a deputy, myself, and there's 2 other girls, 2 other clerks. We are at the counters all day long. We do not get to the messages.
I know that.
So we do have one girl, we worked on them and we try to get them first thing in the morning. They go through them. We do call the people back and we do get to them. Sometimes we don't because they don't call us back. Sometimes your voicemails are full. Sometimes we're just playing phone tag. But I apologize. It's just a busy time of year for us.
Mr.
Oh, I'm so mean. Grouchy. Yell, yell, scream, holler. All right, yeah, it's just I'd like to have my tax bill. I came in and paid early, but
And you can always come to the town. We're open 8:30 to 4. And you can come in. There's lines out the door. I mean, right now, we finally,
that's why I call.
but then you'd probably do better coming in line and getting your tax bill that way, especially in July. July is just crazy. And it's been like that for years. So I apologize. We're doing our best.
I just thought there was another number I could call.
There,
Relax.
Mr. Gadro, if you just give her your information before you leave, she'll take care of that.
yes,
All right.
do that now. I'll
Yeah.
take care of it for you.
Yeah, and I want to correct a misconception here. I say rogue cops when I talk because I've had problems with a few of the police. So when someone wants to correct and say that, all the police, well, they're bad apples everywhere. And once again, President Goslin, you were able to take a snipe back at a citizen up here talking tonight because of something that happened at 16 years old.
Mr. Gadro,
And that mock,
honestly, it had nothing to do with that. And I'm going to sit down with Alan after this and
Okay.
talk to him.
but
So it
you
has
do
nothing to with
this
that.
all
And-
the time, sir.
Well, listen.
You do that to me, you do it to other people.
Gadro.
You might not mean to, you might not think so, but you do. When I come up here, I came here because I was having problems with the police, and I have come in and said it. The chief was sitting back there. Now, chief, make sure they don't follow anybody around, especially Mr. Gadro. Make sure they don't flip anybody off, especially Mr. Gadro.
No, I didn't say especially Mr. Gadro.
And you
I
have said that.
Mr. Gadro. I said, can you tell your police officers, if they are flipping off Mr. Gadro,
And
to
I
please
brought
stop?
witness statements in.
And you want
And
a
I'm
time
gonna
and
bring
date-
more in.
Listen, if you want a time and date, Mr. Gadro, I have gone above and beyond. I've said, I will drive in the car with you with a baseball cap on, pay for your gas, and we'll drive around. And if a police officer flips you off, I'd be more than happy to get out of the car, go talk to the officer, bring him back to the chief's office.
And it's
we
all
can
because
discuss it.
I'm suing them for their actions in October of 2016.
I'll give you a date later on. It's this month.
have my phone number,
Listen,
you have my email.
it'll be this month,
and
but I'm not
I've
going to
never
announce.
received- I've never received a response.
Mr.
I've asked you.
Mr. Gadru, I will give you a date for this month. I'm not going to announce the date here. So that way there's no surprise. It's only just you and I know, okay? Thank you.
Good evening. Ernie, I have a question for you. Maybe you could fill us in with the fire at 100 Pulaski Street, the property. What in the world is going on with that? I believe Councilman Licciardi had contacted the building official and yourself as to what's happening there. That is an extremely dangerous situation. I mean, these people went in the darkness of night and crushed the building down. 5:30 in the morning, they had an excavator in there crushing it. And 2 days later, they had the same excavator in grading the dirt that they piled in on 3/4 of that building. And that's when I called state officials and Councilman Licciardi, because you just can't bury the debris from that fire. Then they spent 2 days digging it all out, and there it sits. There's no safety around that. It's a straight walk-off and a 15-foot drop into a foundation. I mean, there's not a lip that you'd have to step over. You could walk and drop right in. And there's still maybe 1/4 of the fire debris in the corner that they haven't touched. It's extremely dangerous. There's kids all over the neighborhood. They go down there fishing in the river. And we have our problem with people who may have had a good night and they're out roaming around the neighborhood, coming out of the bars and things, and it's just a lot of people walking all around that place. It's very dangerous, and nobody seems to be doing anything with it.
I did view the site once Councilman Licciardi called me about the condition, and at that point, there was no more work being done. It was stopped, and they had to basically correct what they did. If there is a security issue for fencing or something of that nature, I will speak with the building official and review that and put in what is required.
I thought it was required like immediately after the fire. The area had to be safe and quarantined off, and also there had to be permits drawn from the town to start the work. And the way I was told by Mr. Dumont is that the owner of the property was informed that permits had to be in place prior to starting any work, but they were there in the middle of the night doing it 5:30 every morning I go down that street. And, you know, it's odd to see an excavator in there working at 5:30 in the morning. And especially when you see him grading off, and the night before, 8 o'clock the night before, there were two piles of gravel that could have filled this whole area here. And as far as I know, there's still no permits. They've got no DEM permits in place. That's going to be another big problem. And also, I don't even think the town knows, but a former town employee who now lives in Virginia, who rented that property as a motorcycle club years back, used to get all upset about paying to have the honey wagon. Poo-Poo Paulie used to come down every year and a half to pump out that.
PJ cesspool.
Yeah, what a great guy, I miss him. But he would have to come down and pump out a cesspool behind that building. I don't even think they realize that that's there.
That's on
But-
the river, too.
Right, it's feet, not yards, it's feet from the riverbank. That's why it's a wetlands issue, and now the DEM is involved. It's just things are not being done right, and it's a very unsafe area. I just want to bring that to the attention and make sure something gets done there before someone gets hurt. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard?
Richard Hoole, Pike Street. So I have some questions, concerns in regards to the solicitor and his contract. So according to the contract dated February 6, 2018, item number 6 states that the solicitor will give the town council monthly reports on all matters of litigation. Last town council meeting, we all agreed that that wasn't happening. We weren't getting it.
Actually, all reports have been sent to every council member.
As of currently?
Via email, all
Okay.
current.
Perfect, thank you. The solicitor, item number 7 states that the solicitor will give the town council monthly reports on all claims. Now, we've already established that you guys were not aware of some litigation and all the facts about the litigation, correct?
Which litigation are you talking about?
We'll just say the Reed's litigation, it'll just be easier, everyone's
Actually,
familiar
September
with that.
5th, 2017, it was brought before this council as a claim.
2017?
Yes.
Thank you. My other concern is at the Board of Elections meeting, the town solicitor was there. He spoke to the Board of Elections in regards to the Hatch Act complaint filed against Justin Kutu.
Yep.
In his contract, the solicitor agrees not to represent any client before any board, commission, or agency of the town. Who was he representing at that meeting?
Representing the Board of Canvassers,
And who paid for that?
the Board of Canvassers,
Which is paid by the town?
which ultimately is paid by the town.
Why would the Board of Canvassers?
Angelo, if you remember 6 years ago, we appointed him to cover the Board of Canvassers because Ray Lambert is an attorney, but he didn't feel comfortable at the time doing that.
So he didn't feel comfortable this time either?
He didn't want to do any type of legal work. He's the chairman of the board. He should not be representing as an attorney
So
for the
why,
board either.
why was the solicitor representing,
Why did the solicitor represent your case 2 years ago?
he didn't come to the Board of Elections?
And 2 years before that, you at the Board of Elections, solicitor?
For me?
I've been at the Board of Elections for the last 6 years. I've been at the Board of Elections regarding the Alves Pinga matter. I've been at the Board of Elections regarding the matter this year regarding the Hatch Act because the Board of Elections attorney, Raymond Boccaccio, requested that I be there in the event there were any questions of the Board of Elections, and there were from board member Judge Erickson as related to what occurred at the Board of Canvassers hearing between the complaint filed by Mr. Denise against Mr. Kutu, Justin Kutu.
So because of
Wait a minute, at my Board of Elections hearing, when Mr. Denise made accusations about me, the solicitor was here in front of the Board of Canvassers. When I went to Providence,
You did, because your issue, you didn't end up appealing it to Providence. You were, whatever.
I appealed it to Providence.
The action that you took
They voted
against,
against
the action that they took against you, excuse me, they didn't rule against you on the issue that Denise was bringing. Denise was trying to stop you from running. The Board of Canvassers denied his request.
Good. Also, the contract states that the town solicitor shall submit monthly invoices to the town manager, the town council. Mr. President, we can agree that that has not been being done. According to the 2016 contract, which the solicitor mentioned, there was a penalty which would be null and void after 30 days. For some reason, in the 2018 contract, that clause disappeared. With that clause, we would not be having these billing issues, which has been an ongoing issue for more than 30 days, more than 60, probably more than a year. The problem is, how can you rectify a bill 6 months down the road? We don't have proper documentation to actually say, okay, well, on day 2, he sat down and read the paper for this amount of time. If it was done within a 30-day period, it's easier to reconcile. To me, it looks like it's a ploy, easier to sign off on it. If I can submit 3 bills at once, hey, maybe he might not catch this. I can stick this in, stick that in, and you know what, he gets paid at the end of the day.
Before you move on,
Yeah.
Mr. Manager and Kristen, do you want to explain what you do during the billing process?
Well, you've already explained that. They go back and forth, they question things via email. You just explained that. I understand that. My issue is the bill should be within 30 days. With a new council, or with the existing council, with the renewal of a contract, the clause from the 2016 should be put in the 2000, and it would be 20. Probably wouldn't have this issue. My next issue is, his contract also states that the solicitor shall advise the town council and the town manager and receive prior authorization for any actions which is outside of the town. Would the Board of Elections meeting represent that? And what would be the process of that? Like, would he have to obtain special permission to represent the town at the Board of Elections meeting?
No. I would say no at that
It would
point.
be it would
because
be
when-
part of the.
When the challenge comes forward,
Mhm.
he's part of that committee.
Okay. So moving on to the next thing, and I'll be quick here, I know it's late. So I know that we gave some tax breaks to the developers of the old homes building. And tax breaks are good for development. We also gave some to the Royal Mills. But what I don't understand is I'm going through some paperwork, and yes, it does just so happen that Foreign Properties, which is owned by Jared Nunes, and I know the council president's already going to tell me that he recused himself from the vote. But starting in 2017, Jared Nunes, who drives a GMC Denali, probably valued upwards of over $50,000, asked the council for a tax break on a property on a building that honestly should have never been built. If we had more time, I'd go deeper into that. It had no fire permits were not done before the occupancy permit was issued. But in 2017, he only paid 20% of its assessed value. Just so the public knows, he is getting tax breaks all the way until 2021. Is anybody in the audience getting tax breaks on their property? We need to take these tax breaks. The one that was issued today is a great deal. That's for development. But for him to put a steel structure in the back, that's not development. He's a businessman. Business paid taxes. So if he can get it, can I apply for one? Were the dollar stores given any tax breaks? Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Family Dollar?
They did not apply, no.
They didn't apply. Were they aware of it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Dollar Tree, actually, let me reiterate, when Fred Presley was here, when Dollar Tree was talking about coming in, they were talking about coming for a tax break, but they never did.
That's very honorable of them. Unfortunately, this isn't the case with Foreign Properties. So all the way up until, 2018, he'll pay 40%, 1960, 2020, he'll pay 80, so in 2021, he'll pay 100% of his property value for a property that was never even properly licensed.
The evening at the Board of Elections, Mr. Williamson was there representing the Board of Canvassers for the town of West Warwick on the case against Justin Kutu. Who was the attorney for the Board of Canvassers for the other 3 cases that were heard that night?
Which 3 cases?
There were 4 cases from West Warwick that was heard that night, and when Mr. Williamson was asked why he was there, He said, I have 4 cases for
That's
West
not-
Warwick, so
that's-
I'll be
that-
here.
that's-
But he
that's-
left,
Mr.
he
that-
left,
Mr. Rose,
he
that's-
left,
that's
he
not
left,
true.
he left the building
That's not true.
with Mr. Denise right after the Justin Kutu case was heard.
I was not
I
present.
watched
so-
all all the videos from the
Right.
very first to the very last. It took quite a.
The town clerk was there for those other matters, and that's what she was requested to be there for. I was requested to be there for that particular matter, period. And whether I left with Mr. Denise, or I left with Mr. Padula, or I left with Mr. Messier, what difference does that make?
But you stated that you were there because you had all those other cases.
No, I stated I was there for that one particular case because I
No,
wasn't
you
there.
stated that you were there for all the
Well,
other
Tom,
cases.
we're gonna agree to disagree, I guess.
Well, that's the usual.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other public comment?
I'm going to make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Just leave that door open. Can I get a